right, coming again. Coming at you again. I swear to God, I'm getting fucking nothing. My Facebook, nothing wants to fucking work. Are we live?
It says you're live, Joe.
We are live. Are we live? We are live. All right, guys. Well, we're here. We finally got on air. So I hate this. I just got to say sorry to everybody who's been waiting to get on live. We're going to start spreading some of these links around to get you guys back to the show. This week, we have a very awesome guest coming on with us today, Rick Naya, the great-grandfather of hybrid cannabis. As you guys can see, you can't see me today, so nothing but problems, technical difficulties, issues. We had a thunderstorm come through. It just has messed up all of our internets around here. So we're in a remote location, at least I am. But anyways, guys, I'm glad to get the show kicked off. I'm glad that Thomas and Timothy are here with us today. And here we go. Again, the great-grandfather of hybrid cannabis. Most of you guys know who he is, Rick Naya. He's got one hell of a fucking story. And he's doing a lot of great things right now, guys. And also has his own show now. So we want to support him there. He's getting in projects with all sorts of different things going on. Again, I can't say enough about him. He's a great friend. And Rick, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, Joe. Thank you for the introduction. And I really appreciate that. You know, it's been a lot of years in the cannabis realms and just, you know, partaking recreationally mostly. But, you know, these last 15 to 20 years, so to speak, is more medicinal. It became medicinal for me. And, you know, I have back problems and have neuropathy in my foot and leg, and it's bothersome. And the medications that they were giving me were poisoning me, and I could feel it. And you know, I tell my mom and my wife, and you know, they didn't believe it. And I would tell them that the cannabis was more anti-inflammatory. It just helped me more. And I could just feel what it was doing to my body, and it was kind of degrading me. I felt like I was going down. And it just seemed like cannabis kept me well, and it seemed to bring me health, and it made me calmer. It just was just a better all the way around kind of a thing versus you know, pharmacopoeia and pharmaceuticals and petrograde chemicals. And I just made a decision one day that it had to stop. I couldn't keep doing that. And you know, like many people though, maybe some don't, but you know, I met somebody that taught me a lot about health and wellness in my own body and more spirituality. And she's also a sponsor of my show. It's Jessica Love at Love Job, and she helped me. You know, she helped me with the coffee, and she helped me understand what the coffee did and how it worked. And you know, I used to weigh almost 300 pounds, and now I'm down to you know, my high school weight. I'm at 210, 220. And I'm physically fit and I glow. I mean, I don't know what it is, but everywhere I am, I feel very healthy, and I just feel alive. And I think a lot of it has to do with the coffee and my diet changes, and how cannabis has helped me better understand what it is and the purpose it's had in my life, and then how to look at it differently in a spiritual sense, conscientious, subconscious levels. And as you know, Joe, you're a friend of mine. You know, I left duality 3 years ago, and I philanthropized my life. I stepped away from everything and decided just to be a real diplomat and a dignitary for cannabis. And I didn't want to speak ill about anybody or anything. And, you know, I ask a lot of guests on my show, probably every show, and I mention it all the time, and I'll do it again, that I ask, you know, do you understand cannabis? And people always say, yes, I do. And I say, well, do you know the one thing that cannabis does not have that we share? Because if you know cannabis, you know that it has an electromagnetic resonance. It exudes well-being and an aura through spectrometers. It's been tested next to a human being that they give off the same radiant aura as a human's, and it's the only plant in the plant kingdom that does so. And you can find this data online. It's there. And it's just kind of not scary to me anymore. I understood now that cannabis, being here so long and evolving with us for so long, that it evolved with one thing that we didn't have, and that was eyes. It didn't have a chance to choose who was going to pick it up, who was going to be blessed by it or healed by it, who was going to use it recreationally. It didn't get a chance to choose that. And many of us, like we know, we don't get to choose who our parents are. We're born into a race, a color, a social network that we didn't choose. Like even governments that control us, or government laws that we didn't choose. So like cannabis, it doesn't get to choose. So we, as the beings that understand it, are educated by it, are there to advocate for it, we have to send a message that, you know, I mentioned it the other day, we're not Cheech and Chong, you know, it was a movie. We're educated professionals. There's science and data and research out there that rebukes all bias, federal government tomfoolery, the lies from the petrograde companies in these industries. And now with politics, how the Democrats have removed it from their table because the money that pours in from these huge conglomeracies that each are tied into petrograde and fuel, they're all tied to this money. You know, like they say, follow the money. So what I've been trying to advocate lately is, you know, follow the earth, follow where your food comes from. You know, it's like I said the other day, 2 tomatoes in a hand are better than those in a can. Grow your own, learn your soil, learn how to take care of your health and wellness. And if you're deficient and you need minerals and nutrients, you can get them through sustenance. And that sustenance brings you a glow, it brings you health, it brings you wellness, it brings about life. And that's really pretty much my message lately. Sharing that and brands. What's really funny is I'm becoming like this brand ambassador everywhere, from my light company at Clear Light Technology, American Machine Vision, thank those guys. Also CryoCure, which is a very revolutionary way of preserving cannabis and having it on the shelves within 24 hours of harvest. And Bubba Kush Brands and Iota Mist, and being able to help speak on behalf of revolutionary, technologically advanced forms of medicating almost instantaneously. And there's just a myriad of different companies now that are looking at not just myself, my show, the events that I helped become a dignitary and a diplomat to, and welcoming to every being that arrives to these shows. I love it. It was like when NECAN became NECAN, Mark and Jeff were coming to our festivals and hanging and watching what we were doing at this like festival, where diplomats and dignitaries and representatives and governors and House representatives were coming to speak. And it was really quite different than most other kinds of festivals. And they saw that as an opportunity to bring the Can Arena to the table. And I'll never forget walking through NECAN the first time. I wept like a little boy to see all of those sponsors and people who had put their lives up onto the table for the cannabis arena. And I just wept because I knew finally, after all these years of trying to build a table, I always call it's a table. We need legs to a table so we can sit down, all of us, and talk properly with science and technology, not lies. So we've created a great table with great strength now. And, I want to thank all of the people that are out there that are frontline people who serve the public and, are in harm's way, like nurses and, my daughter, my girlfriend, they're in the front lines of this, and people that help others with this trying time. And I just want to thank all those people out there. I think it's very powerful to me because they're giving compassionately. And the reason why I say that is because I don't know what people think about cannabis, but I've always said that there are 4 primary things that cannabis does. And there are 22,000 other types of sciences that go along with it. But the 4 primary functions of cannabis are health and wellness. And from that, the love and compassion that we receive from it and to share with others. So that's the move that we're on now with craft growers, bringing the regional love, like with Thomas, who's a guest. And, there are people out here that bring cannabis at a communal level that's not really religious, though Rastafarians believe of cannabis, but it isn't their primary belief. It's just a way to reach Jah and understand enlightenment and to be enlightened. And it's just neat now that to be at my age and getting a little wiser and understanding what's going on right now. I mentioned earlier as we were talking that, you know, humanity raised her head. They've had enough. Black lives do matter. And they've had enough. Cannabis has had enough. We're tired of racism being cast upon people of color because I am one. I'm Cuban and I'm a person of brown orientation. And I have many Black members within my family and children who are biracial. And it's always been ever welcoming by my mother and my family. I was bred that way. I was bred to understand that and to be welcoming and loving to all people. Very difficult in the 60s and 70s. There was a lot going on in turmoil, but we evolve as society does. And there are times when humanity stands up like now. And now is a chance for, this is the message I'm driving now, that people should be holding the people that they elect so accountable, so much so now, that if you've elected them, the question is, did you vote to make cannabis illegal? And if their answer is yes, then quite frankly, they're part of a systemic portion of what racism means and why the failed drug war has been cast upon us, and they don't deserve their title because 72 to 76% federally and throughout New England and New Hampshire want cannabis to be legalized and regulated like alcohol and tobacco, yet the people that we've elected choose to ignore us. And in New Hampshire, it's very difficult. We don't, you know, do things by ballot initiatives. We do this by referendums, and we write bills and rules that have to go through House, the Senate, through the governor to be signed or vetoed. And it's very complex when you have 475 people having to come to an agreement. It's one of the most difficult challenges that you'll ever face. And right now, I believe that the position that all people with humanitarian thoughts and a compassion for humanity need to stand up and kibosh any other topic. It should be that cannabis needs to be legal now so that we can not only heal those wounds from the past 100 years or 80 years it has been, but what it's done to the people of color and what it's done to Black people and minorities in general. It's time that we chastise that and remove it from society and get it out of the way so that we can begin to heal and move forward. So that's where I'm at, sharing the love everywhere I go, again, with the brands that believe in this message I carry, and then the message that we all share together like I do on my show. I just love sharing commonality within the cannabis arena and how, you know, the table has been made and people like Thomas and Timothy can get involved and share prosperity in a very civilized, professional, tactical business venue like any other one in the world. So that's where I'm at, man, and that's really my message right now.
Yeah, there we go. I mean, your message is strong, Rick. You have a huge following of people that support you, and it's just amazing everywhere you go. What's the biggest battle we're facing right now that you think in the cannabis front? I know we just went over a huge amount of information right there, but is it right now the biggest focus should be our vote?
Well, I think, yeah, right now we're coming into November. It's called the stretch. It's it. Humanity's at stake right now. Remember something, I'm not a political dude, though I come from a family of truly politically acquiesced individuals throughout the world. I mean, it's incredible, my background is. But what humanity is saying right now has to be heard. And it's a terrible miscarriage of justice to stand in a House of Representatives as a legislator and or a council or a commissioner for a department and have lobbyists and activists who peddle federal funds with biased data and information. At this point, those people now are racists. They might not be. They could be a person of color for that matter, but if they continue to think that humanity has yet not spoken, they're very mistaken. They're racists. They're the systemic problem of it. They are the reason why we have failed Americans, citizens throughout the world who come and visit and maybe get caught with a joint and get incarcerated, or trouble that it causes. The trouble in itself is worse than alcohol prohibition. From the beginning, when Enslinger and their department just started the taxation, and the way that you had to get the stamps to be able to even try to grow it, it was a really catch-22. They basically screwed them then, and then they put it on the backs of, in the 70s with the Nixon administration, they put it on the backs of people of color. And this is all known fact. And for anybody, and I'm talking, hey, President Trump, attorney generals, anybody in the nation that wants to talk rubbish any longer, you are the racist and you're the chastised people now. You're imbeciles. You are ignorant to humanity and the carriage of justice. And you've miscarried this for so long that you are now the racist individuals. And I challenge any, I challenge any individual on this planet to try to say otherwise. And I would be glad to have an open forum debate with any individuals, whether it be medical, police, the courts. It wouldn't even matter at this point because the fingers have already been pointed. Life does this. I don't. I'm a carrier of the message that facts, knowledge, data, research, science, civilized individuals and people in this world, we already know. So we're going to now, and this is a must, this show should be shared all over the world. It's a must now to utilize what we know about cannabis and this huge miscarriage of justice worldwide. It's a farce. It's a calamity. I don't even know the words to use anymore because it's just that terrible. They're racist because they're systemically carrying a racial policy. That makes you part of the problem. That makes you the systemic issue. And you cannot get away from educated knowledge that's available. So at this point, everybody should be saying the same thing. I know that I'm carrying the message, or many of us carry it, but it needs to be voiced now at the highest echelons of politics and government, and educating our children for that matter, and our village and our communities. It was a racial law. All of this was driven as a drug war upon good law-abiding humans and people who knew that holistically cannabis was their choice of remedy, of health, wellness, love, and compassion. So it's time for the change. We need a newer America, not just a newer New Hampshire. I've been saying this for years. We need a newer New Hampshire. We need one where all nations and all people from New England can come. We shouldn't be an island of prohibition surrounded by a tsunami of legalization. Right. It's now your state is full of racist politicians. Yes, and I'm so terribly sorry. I've been trying to drive this message. I'm sorry that these people don't want to listen, but it's time that the news and the media and WMUR and Rock 101 and all these radio stations, they should be sending this show as a message, because we are now at that juncture in our world, let alone America.
They should, definitely, right? I mean,
well, I've said a lot, but this is a very powerful message for the youth out there that go out and vote. Oh, I'm Democrat because I want, and free this, and hey, or I'm Republican and we need to, hey, no. Let's look at it like the truth. Why is our world so screwed up? Why are the police so flagrantly after and demonizing people of color with violence? Because of cannabis and a failed drug war upon us.
Well, Tim Fair of Vermont Cannabis Solutions. How are we doing, Tim, today?
Rick, you should check this out. I just wrote an article for Hoban Law Group on this exact topic, the history of the illegality. All talking about Anslinger going back, talking about Nixon and his war. I had the quote from his private counsel there, aide to domestic affairs, John Earl, whatever, can't even pronounce his last name, but great talking about the demonization of the anti-war left and the horrible blacks. Yeah, I mean, marijuana legal criminality has been a racist tool since it first came out in the 1920s.
I don't know if you know, Timothy, if you know Chris Chiari. He's a very dear friend of mine and actually a world famous activist that just wrote a book and became a movie that Ice-T produced called Enemy Number One. You should read that, because if you wrote that, you would know, you would go, oh
Richard
my
Nixon,
goodness.
public enemy #1.
It is, and you just said it. And now, if you read the book and read the book first, of course, and then watch this movie, you will learn a little more. And then the voice that you're hearing me speak now, what you're hearing me say, I could see it in your face when I was speaking because you were on mute, but I could see you welling inside. I knew it. Remember, we're carriers of a message, and this message is through media now. And without you saying that, me saying, hey, Chris Chiari, and being able to share this network of truths, how are we going to bless our children's legacy in the future? We talk about the earth, and we talk about, oh, the warming of the... What about our children's legacies in the future? Look what we've done. We've allowed this.
We need to educate. That's what's going to ensure our children have a future, and that's education. That's getting
They're smarter than we are. Our children are smarter than we are. They're so talented with computers and so knowledgeable. I used to think when I was on my phone, doing, texting. I used to watch kids texting. I'm like, what are those things? What are they doing? Well, what's going on with these kids with their faces all like this? Now I see adults and everybody at dinner talking like this, and everybody's down. I'm like, this is like, wait a minute, get your head out of your asses. There's something going on around you right now that's devastated the Black people, that's devastated the world, that continues to do so based on fallacy and lies. And the Nixon administration, Ainslinger, all of these huge corporations, this message needs to be educated. And our children, they already know. They're smarter than we are. They have the information right online. They laugh. My children don't use, they laugh at me. Yeah. They think, Dad, that's out. I got more important things to do, Dad. They want an education. They want to get ahead. They're looking at society as there's an opportunity. And that's the legacies we need to leave. Opportunity, not being scared of police, not being scared to go out, not being frightened to get an education and the endocannabinoid system and not be able to use it. There are things that our nation has held back, and we must. This starts locally. This starts with your local representative, your governor, your senator. Go after them. Let them know. Did you vote no to legalize cannabis? Why, yes, I did. And could you explain to me why your true reasoning why? And don't tell me that you're protecting the children. Tell me the true reason why, and then you'll be able to call them out and call them what they are. You are a systemic harborer of racism. You, my friend, will never be reelected again, and I will make it my duty to call you out on social media. You can call me, Joe, you can call the Young Jerks, you can call a lot of us that can get this message out. The thing is, the message begins internally with you. If you believe the things I'm saying and you know it to be true, you had better go out, because your vote is worth a lot more than you think. And your phone call or email to an elected official is worth a lot more if you make a copy of it and you put it on social media. There's a lot of power that we yield right now, especially with this card that I'm calling, the systemic racism of cannabis and the degradation of humanity in America. And that's where we're at. The big change is upon us, and the youth need to step up. That's what I got.
I agree completely. I mean, we have nothing without teaching the youth right now. We talked about our children and not even being interested in cannabis. I think when you break that stigma, we talk about it all on the show all the time from young kids, and that, hey, this is bad. I want to do it to piss somebody off. You know what I mean? I got to do it because I can't kind of mentality. Then we will have a different direction. I think a lot of these people that are, raising kids now in this day and age, we're seeing that, they're not interested into it. If they are using it or making it part of their life, it's probably because of a medicational issue that they're using it for. It's kind of interesting to see and hear these kids, because it's not something they're interested into. But then again, it also makes me concerned about the opioid crises and stuff like that we have that are going on in this country. Just because with that going on, it's easier to get opioids right now. It's cheaper to get opioids right now, right? So I mean, a lot of these kids I talked to recently are hey, it's way cheaper to get a little dose of something else than it is to buy a bag of weed right now, right? Because the weed's so expensive, especially out here in the East Coast. On the West Coast, I don't think there's any issues there, just because it's so cheap, right? I mean, we're seeing prices down there fluctuate. You can get $5 eighths and $40 ounces we were looking at the other day, Rick, remember? So with those issues, I think we're coming a long way. The big thing, you being a representative for New Hampshire, we talk about New Hampshire a lot, Tim, and with Thomas about how crazy hard it is to get anything done in New Hampshire, Republican state. So,
well, New Hampshire is really not a Republican state. It's really quite odd. New Hampshire is more, we are more Democratic. I'll have to say we're more Democratic. What's funny is that we find, or what I've seen here in the 30 years I've been here, is how the cycles go. It's kind of odd. We'll get this rush for the Democrats and they'll get their seats and they'll hold them for several years. And then even though they have dominance, policy needs to change. Something happens and then a Republican will win. And then he'll go about bashing, vetoing, and we need to reserve our money and start, changing things to become a little bit more in control versus out of control spending. Because I think a lot of times what people see from the parties, because again, I don't like talking politics, but what we see is like Democrats like to spend money for policy to help people and to bring government into the fold, to have the government pay for these things so that we can make these things happen and pay for the marketing of it and pay for the publicity and advocacy of it. And that's how the feds fund states to get acquiesce balance for voting on the federal level, on the government, for the presidencies and so forth, and Congress. And it's a really funny unacquiesced balance, because what happens again is follow the money. When let's say I started running for politics, no one could ever buy me out. No one could ever come and say, listen, we're going to give you $1 billion. Shut up and don't do that. And you know what? Just follow this cue and you're going to be reelected, because we're going to make sure that everybody gets paid to make sure you get reelected, because that's what they do. Right. You couldn't buy me. I speak for the people, and I speak with green, and green as cannabis, not money.
Sound like you're about to make a run there, Rick.
Yeah, right? No, money and I, many people don't know, but I come from a family of the very first multi-billion-dollar contract ever written on this planet was written by my family. Okay, yeah. I understand money, and I came from tremendous affluence, and I stepped away from affluence for a purpose, for a calling, for my children, to help them understand what true love and compassion is for humanity, not for money, not for friends, not for your job or car status, not for the ego, but just for the now, for like the purpose of now, living at the moment that's now. Many people don't understand that. They live in duality. Their paychecks, their jobs, their taxes, their funds, their kids, their college, all of those things are a necessity of life. We understand these things. I've been through all of that. But there came a day and a time when the calling took over and the message was real. When cannabis asked me to be its eyes and to be a dignitary and a diplomat for it, it was another journey. It's a whole nother journey. It's unlike anything that people truly do with it. It's always about the money and how they're going to get a package and get their marketing and get their brand and get their this and get their that. I'm like a billboard for it now, because I speak about it in a way that I believe is truth, and truth of cannabis. And cannabis speaks volumes if we speak for it. Remember, it can't see, so we have to speak for it, and eloquently and professionally. And now that I understand the magnetism of humanity, and at my age, I can specifically say that anybody that votes no to not legalize cannabis, you are a bigot, racist, and I will make it my job, and others will too. People will join me in this message, because it's only right. I'm tired of seeing Black people murdered and killed and ruin their lives. I'm so sorry that I think many haven't spoken sooner. I'm so sorry that humanity is, but I'm part of humanity, and I'm trying to do my part through cannabis. Because cannabis blesses it, like I said, those 4 things. It only does 4 things. It brings health and wellness, and from that, love and compassion. Many people were close to death. Many have died, but cannabis has saved millions of people's lives now. And we know this to be true. And we need to continue. And then when people say to you, well, there's not enough science and there's not enough,
right?
boy, you know what happens to me inside when I
there.
hear that? I want to blow up right then, I want to implode because of the tremendous control of biased data. There's so much of what's happened that's blinded people. Just Google the information, for crying out loud. But what's funny is that Google's algorithms guide you in your types of searches and so forth, and would guide you away from cannabis knowledge. Now, I've been an algorithm so long, I think even on Facebook, you know, I've never been banned. I haven't ever, you know, none of that. But my search is like, when I search, it's all like science stuff, you know, and it's all science and data about cannabis. And my summation now, I think we're there. If people understand that people that have voted, and that we have voted for, if we don't know them well enough to elect them, why did you vote for them? And if you did, ask them, did you vote to legalize cannabis? Okay, you did? Great, you're safe, you're a good person, you're not racist, and you're not a systemic racist then. Thank you. And then you ask the other ones that said yes, that they did, then you got a right to call them a racist. Don't matter what color they are, right? Well, now we can do this.
Well, I mean, Rick, I mean, you know, I think there's some issues too that we have to bring up on those points is, you know, in most of these states, what are our other options? You know what I mean? Right now, we're looking at presidency that neither side is pro-cannabis. So a lot of us cannabis people are very nervous right now because what are our options, right? What were your options in New Hampshire to vote for a governor? You know what I mean?
You know what? It's funny you say that, Joe, because you have no option in New Hampshire. There's not a ballot that, but everybody, when there's a ballot initiative, what's really neat about it is that jump on the wagon. We want it or we don't. Woo! Here in New Hampshire, you have to be an eloquent person to write a bill that others might like and join in on, because quite frankly, if you're making history, you're changing and writing a law that's going to affect the outcome of humanity. Well then, my exact point, that if you continue to vote no against cannabis, you're a bigot and a racist of the worst kind. You're the type of people that we don't need in politics. And in New Hampshire, I hate to say this, they're so antiquated. They're old. If you went to my state house and you sat through just one open forum session, you would be in shock. I've caught them sleeping and snoring. I've taken videos and photographs during some of the most critical points of cannabis history that we were making, and have them tell me, I'm not going to vote for that because it's against my personal beliefs, and I'm just not going to vote for that, and fall asleep at a table in front of 60 adults in ignorance, and in ignorance to know that this person has been in politics for 30 or 40 years. There should be term limits. We should have youth. We need vibrancy. We need educated professionals to really step up and change and make a newer humility for humanity. We've almost destroyed it. Look what's happening all over the country. It wasn't just about George Floyd. It was about Blacks and Hispanics. It was about minorities and Jews. It was about what the entire revolution was against humanity. It was the failed drug war. It was Nixon's own words. Let's get those. I don't even like to use the N word. Let's get the N's. Let's get the Blacks. Let's get the Puerto Ricans, the Blacks. They wanted to go after Jews. Everybody. It was terrible. It was a terrible time in American history, and we can make it right now. We can begin to meld our nation and the world by legalizing cannabis and listening to the World Health Organization and listening to science, like Dr. Raphael Mechoulam, who wrote the report for the Nixon administration to study cannabis and came back and said that, well, you know, cannabis is safe and it's a neurotransponding regenerator. And they mentioned all of it. Now read our patent and weep. Weep while you know that the truth is that we have been lied to for so long that we believed it. And the fact is, we have a chance right now in humanity, and I'll be a voice. I'll say it, and I'll say it over and over again. That's why I glow. I know the truth, and the truth is, it's time for the change. We need a newer America. We need a newer New Hampshire. We need a newer world. You know, not a new world order. We need to release cannabis from that bind and let people finally begin healing, and let the world begin to heal.
The problem is, you know, we talk about this all the time, Rick. I mean, we have the research, we have, you know, the history behind hemp and cannabis, as we discussed a lot. And we discussed the racism behind it, and then a lot of these issues. We talk about social equality a lot. You know, that's the one thing we also forget to mention is how we can repair people's lives that have been affected by this plant. You know what I mean? By affected by the war on drugs per se, right? And when it happened, unfortunately, right now is, you know, who do we trust, and you know, who is there trust in government? It seems like everybody tells us, you know, we've been hearing it for how many years with the Trump administration, they're going to legalize. I mean, Tim, we could talk about this all day. We've been hearing about this for how long? You know what I mean? To keep giving us a date, to give us a date, to give us a date. Right, you know what I mean? And then when we look at statewide, you know, we've seen the issues in New Hampshire. Tim just did another video just the other day about S54 and, you know, our issues there, failures, and the things we need to move forward to. But what, you know, a lot of people I don't think realize, and me and Tim have been shouting this for months, right, is the failure of these bills this last year results in a start over, right? I mean, for Vermont and New Hampshire. So we basically have to start over with this process again, don't we?
I mean, you know, there's still a slight chance, I guess, S54 could pass, but I mean, yeah, no, for all intents and purposes, yes, we're starting over. And, you know, based on what happens with our state election in November, we could have some of the same players. We could have none of the same players. The entire legislature, you know, the entire House is up for re-election in Vermont. So it could be a completely new set of players, completely new set of priorities. You know, it's 4 years is what it took us to get 2 weeks away from the governor's desk, and all of that's gone now.
Wow.
So it's frustrating, and we'll see what happens. You know, maybe the silver lining is that now there's an opportunity for the entire community to weigh in and try to come up with something that there's consensus on that would probably help things along quicker. You know, there's a lot of the community that had some real issues with some provisions in the last bill, some of them very correctly and some of them not so correctly, but you know, maybe now we can get some more consensus. Maybe now we can get more people on board. It's the only silver lining I can see at this point.
I like very much to see Vermont not allow the medical industry control what's happening, because I'm going to say it now, because I'm revolutionary, but I don't like that.
Can I jump in here? They are not letting the medical dispensaries have control. The medical dispensaries have no money. They're dropping like flies. They're consolidating. Grassroots, since Ianthus went down, Grassroots Brandon is done. They're going to be closing down. They can't sustain. They have no economic power. They have 5,000 total medical patients who half of them don't use the system anyway. Then they would be getting a 6-month head start to open, which is more show theater than anything else, because half their leases don't allow them to sell adult use. They don't have products. They have forced vertical integration. They can barely supply 5,000 patients and not going to supply an 80,000 person adult use industry. A 6-month head start. If my client started today, they would need more time than that in order to get up and running, in order to get cultivation up, in order to get production up, in order to get the, so they're not getting, they weren't giving ceded control, and they were given a little tiny bone to make the political reality of their lobbyists make the legislation get through. This is the problem with a legislatively passed bill versus a ballot initiative.
Can you tell me something? Can you tell me something, Timothy? What lobbyists do you see in Vermont most regularly? Can you tell me their names?
In terms of the firms, they're all very open. It's down there, Leo 9 in Montpelier. They're one of the big public marketing and firms. Just Google Montpelier lobbyists.
Yeah. Now, what about like national lobbyists? You know, the big guys, like, you know, like Normal or MPP. Were they
MPP. Matt Simon works for MPP, both New Hampshire. He's actually very active. I'm sure you know Matt. You gotta know Matt. I'm sure you know Matt Simon.
Well, I've known Matt Simon for years. You know, I used to like Matt. I used to hang out with Matt. I used to listen to Matt. I used to listen to this message. I used to listen to a lot of the things that he said. And then I got a lot of chin kicking under the tables at times. And I wasn't putting it all together, because a lot of it was, let's just get the bill passed. Let's just. Well, what happened and what it comes down to is the monopoly control of the medical. And that's kind of what they tried to do out in Vermont. But I guess like what you're saying now, and it's not the case in New Hampshire. A lot of people buy from New Hampshire because of still it's decriminalized here. We don't have a legal anything yet. And we're trying for it. But what happened is that the multi-state operators, those that came from Canopy Growth and the big money that was being poured in by the conglomeracies there, well, that was MPP's biggest funders, and I wasn't aware of that until way too late. And somebody was telling me, you better keep an eye on it, you don't know what you do. And I kept fighting with common sense and being that staunch citizens guy. And yeah, the last bills that were written, the way that they were trying to inclusionary the medical and the things that they were doing, it all dawned on me even more. You sons of guns, you know what? Get the hell out of here. This is for the farmer. This is for the person, the local mom and pop. This is New Hampshire, the New Hampshire way, not this huge multi-state operation. Now, this has been going on for years, this battle in New Hampshire with him and them and us and me and what have yous. But what I can surely say is this, is that the power and the greed has collapsed. Those huge corporations, I mean, I already speak to them and I speak to the boards and I know where their money, because I know the story. I knew the gist of it all from the beginning, but I just didn't want to believe it was coming from someone so close and I was trying to work with so closely. But when money is being poured in from companies that are funding you, you've got to put bills together that support their cause. Otherwise, you're talking shit. And that's not what activist lobbyists do. They get paid. Otherwise, you're not getting paid and you're done. So it's really something, it's just powerful to know that, you know, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, New England, all of us in New Hampshire still yet to have a legalization bill. And ours, like yours, was just about to go through and it's about to come up again. But I have to be honest, I'm glad that it didn't. I'm glad that that bill didn't go through.
Same thing about, you know, Vermont's.
I'm glad that it did not, and I'm going to go after it differently. And I've got some representatives and a senator already, and these guys already know this bill now, the one that we'll put together here now, it'll be one that'll be passed. I'm sure that it will be, because anybody that says no will be called out as a racist and a bigot, because we're not going to do the over-regulating. We're not going to do all of that ridiculous over-regulation. No, I know. So, we want a farmer to be able to grow cannabis in New Hampshire, right? Right, on his property, yeah, right. And just like he has his ice cream, milk, and eggs up front and cheese that he sells to the public, there's that jar of weed that he's got in his oil that he pressed right out back in his seeds, right there with his wife and their kids selling right at their farm store. God bless them. And if the state agriculture department wants to go out and inspect their farms, they should go out and inspect their tomatoes and corn and every other item that they grow on their properties, as they do, and they can do that where they have their cannabis. And then allow for the home grow, just like everybody else in the region. What is it, 12 plants? Okay, 12 plants at home. That's it. Leave it be. Let them grow at home. You guys, that was part of that move. Listen, you guys got that because that was the move that they put on you through the lobbying to keep the money in that. I'm not going to say the names again. I'm just tired. It's just trying to keep the money into the hospital's names. It was getting all the patients over to them so that they could monopolize this. This was something that we saw it coming. We have actually a friend of mine, Paul Morissette, sued the state of New Hampshire over the licensing and the agreements. And we found through investigating, if you knew the truth about what was really going on, we shared it with Joe a little bit. We shared it with a couple of people, friends of Joe's at the state level. And yep, sure enough, it came out. And I think it rattled the legs. And after what you said earlier, I think exactly what's happening. Craft people understand they don't need to get their meds there. In fact, because there's reciprocity from Vermont, they can go to Maine. You know, it's really quite something. The medical patients' rights were over-regulated because they were trying to keep the money in that coffer with those agreements with those multi-state operators. Sinful, just totally sinful, man.
I don't know anything about the New Hampshire law. I know Vermont's law very well. Well, I know provisions of it anyway, but it's a moot point. We're going to be starting back from scratch, and it's going to set back. My problem is I'm a criminal defense attorney, and I just had to watch one of my close friends spend 8 months in jail for selling a couple 40 bags because it was a federal prosecution here in Vermont, and barely keeping his significant other out of prison. And if it hadn't been for COVID, there's a good chance they both would be incarcerated right now. So
over 2 quarter ounces of cannabis.
A couple of CI buys of $40, no more than $40 at a time. She was prosecuted for THC edibles.
So this is just a travesty of justice completely.
Yeah, but
The judge
I'm
just
the one
throw
who's
this
in
out
the
of court.
federal courtroom, and I have to listen to the chief judge for the District of Vermont, the chief federal judge, Judge Christine Rice, who's a very powerful and very important judge,
And
tell me
racist.
how dangerous marijuana is to the community and how serious a crime this is.
Oh, she's a racist bigot.
You don't get the luxury of calling a federal judge when you're a defense attorney a racist bigot, though, because these are the people who are setting policy.
And you know what's funny? Not only do they set policy, there's a group, they're a crew, and they all lie and cheat and steal and do whatever they can behind closed doors to keep your mouth shut so that they can continue. And if you don't like it, like me, because you know I grew up in a political background, I have tremendous acumen behind the judges in the chambers with the judge. Okay, I know shit that goes on behind those closed doors. It's just it's just not even. It's people out there that wave the flag and knew the truth about what's going on. I think a lot of you would just, yeah, it's not.
No idea. I can tell you stories about federal court, but at the end of the day, they're the ones sending you to prison for sometimes a very long time.
Yeah, and what's worse is the politician's around for a little while. A judge is around for lifetimes. Attorneys stick around for lifetimes. Those relationships they have and that money that gets exchanged and those trips and fun times they share. Oh boy, you wonder why.
Well, I tell you, the fact that we don't have a legalization framework in Vermont gives the federal judges, the favorite thing they all say is, well, you know, this wouldn't be legal in Vermont because there's no, you know, you can't sell pot in Vermont. So they're in violation of both state and federal law. If we had a law that allowed this and they were acting legally under state law, they would not be going to jail. There would be no threat of federal prosecution.
Yeah, and the federal government just came out and said they went out the bill. There it is. Oh, you can't go after states that already have federal and legal and they choose to make their own rights. They're done with it now. Right. That was one of the biggest signs.
That's why it's so important to get it passed. Even if it's an imperfect bill, you can change a bill, you can change provisions afterwards, but it's established. You have the framework.
You better get a framework that's inclusionary of minorities and social equity. I hope that you guys look at the fact that, you know, this bill can pass if you keep it short and simple and use the race fact, because if they said no, so you're racist. What do you mean? No, you are, because you're systemically continuing a failed drug war upon our citizens.
I mean, there's not even a question on that level. But you talk about social equity. Social equity and cannabis legalization is a really difficult subject. Incredibly important. But how? How do you implement an effective social equity program in a state like Vermont or New Hampshire, where there have been obviously some egregious, abuses against minorities in both of our states, but to a fraction of the extent simply because there's a fraction of the population. And the fact that all people of color do not necessarily want to sell pot. So giving preferences in licensing schemes is not true social equity. I mean, sure, it helps. It's a step. It's acknowledging something needs to be done. But what really needs to be done is reinvestment into the community. But what community and how and what form does that reinvestment take? Do you and I think
those are really good questions. You're pulling up some very good questions. But you made a statement there. I look at it like this. I'm brown. I'm not white, though I'm white. And I look white, and that's fine with me. And when we talk about social equity, I'm not talking about funding social equity. I'm not like in Massachusetts that they get the first chance to get the job. But what I do think is that they should have an opportunity that's specifically written into law. It's here's why. Hispanics and blacks have carried the back of cannabis all these years.
Where does the money come?
We're going to let money and power continue to keep them oppressed. That's something that
No. But where do we get the money to fund their opportunity? Giving them an opportunity is great, but unless
very simply, it's a real simple process. You don't have to have money to fund them. It's just you give them the licensing opportunity. Oh, $100,000. No, you're a minority. Yep, you were arrested for it. You proved it. Here. They met some criteria. Here's your license.
Get a license, but they still need to run a business. They still need to have, inventory or, cultivation.
And that's what businesses do. And that's what boards do and people do. That's what anybody does, whether they're minority, black, white, brown, green. Doesn't matter what color. But the fact here remains that minorities, the minorities are cannabis. They're part of that whole
Absolutely.
equation.
I know, I'm with you, man. I just want to find, we work on trying to, brainstorm a way, a strategy in which.
You know what? Maybe we should talk to Luis Vega at Wepa Farms. He's a hemp farmer in Connecticut. He's Latino. He has minorities with his group, and they understand a lot of the racial laws and things like this. And you guys, like you said, you got a small state. You don't have a lot of people. You said 80,000 people might smoke cannabis in Vermont.
The Rand Report's estimates the first year would be 80,000 adult use customers for the first year of an adult use market in Vermont. It's just one random statistic that is, and I don't put much faith in it, but it goes to show you if they can't do 5,000, there's no chance that they're going to do anything near what is anticipated.
Yeah,
I like your vertical integration where they're growing in a garage.
I like your veracity and tenaciousness, Timothy. I appreciate it because it reminds me of me when I was first into this. I'm a counsel for the State's Commission, and I'm an expert in cannabis, and I'm an expert in common goddamn sense. I've had about a goddamn enough. Let me tell you, I'm saying this on the show because I could never say this on the floor. But I'll say it on the show. I'll tell you one thing: I'm pissed off at these people, and if they're going to continue acting that way, I'm just going to look at them and say, "You're a racist." Well, how dare you? And that's all I'm going to say. And it may humiliate them and it may infuriate them. But the fact is, you're perpetuating it. So enough. That's what I say.
Perpetuation's easy, though. It's a lot easier than like Tim says, come up with money, putting this in the law, just perpetuate, drag our feet, and then
but that's what media does. You call them out. It breaks the back. I've been watching this go down. Watch the young jerks. They've been doing some great work. Look at Mike Crawford and Grant Smith. They've been calling out people. Sometimes you kind of go, oh my God, why would you? Oh my goodness, what are they doing? But you want to know something? It's called out. Social justice matters that need to be addressed, and sometimes those things are the hardest things to address. So you have to hit it head on. Media can do this. That's what we're doing now.
Have to hit it head on. I mean, unfortunately, the typical way I think things would work would be to brush under the rug and eventually it'll go away. In most politics, that usually works. In cannabis, I don't think people are letting it go away because we want to see it. We're at the houses, state houses every day, right? And then, let's look at mass right now, right? Let's talk about mass. Here we are. How many we can use? Let's use Ed D'Souza from
River Run.
Right? River Run. So, Ed is a very vocal advocate. He's been on the show before. We support Ed, everything he's doing. He's trying to get a micro business license, right? It's been 3 years. So if you want to talk about dragging feet and making things not happen for these people, I mean, he's been paying a bill for 3 years, waiting in line.
Let me share something with you, Joe. I don't know if you know, but Alchemy League. Okay, Alchemy League has been in this for over 3 years. They were the first of the diversity group to get involved. Two black women. They're married. They have every part of every single right. Everything about it is like perfect for them. But it's taken them 3 years just to get a license.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous how it's working. But then now we read in politics, now that we're getting a little on the politics side with the Democrats and Republicans and things. We saw last week the Democrats just made huge waves by rejecting the cannabis legalization in the party platform. Tim, I wanted to direct this to you, and now that we're on this conversation, we might as well just go right to this.
What's going on with their expected candidate? The party will fall in line with the expected candidate. Joe Biden has shown, he doesn't support full federal legalization. He supports the states' rights, which, at this point, fine, anything is better. The thing is, he's not going to go after it. He's not going to appoint Jeff Sessions, to the Attorney General. It's going to be a laissez-faire at worst, and maybe some movement on a bill like the Safe Banking Act. We could see get through if the Democrats take both the House and the Senate. But what you have to remember is that what's so unique about cannabis and marijuana policy at the federal level is it's not your traditional red and blue issue. There are plenty of Democrats that do not support it, and there are plenty of Republicans that do support it.
I want to say it's a Mitch McConnell problem. Yeah, let's consider. I want to say something. Let me say this very clearly. I'm going to say it right now. Mitch McConnell should have been gone a long time ago. Not only should he have been gone a long time ago. Do you guys know what he did? Do you know what him and Speaker Boehner and McConnell have done? Do you know why they don't want anything to do with any banking, no money? Because they're so tied up with the money in Canada that they have invested in with those huge grows that they
have
can't.
hemp. They have hemp. They have hemp companies.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. He's got it so wrapped up that he wants no one touching this. That man has to go.
The funny part is last week, right?
You're going to see him on the board of Canopy Growth a month after
Yeah.
he gets out.
Dude, you're allowed that can happen. He just ripped into Pelosi for
yes, I saw that.
Proven therapy. So
and he made a joke. He made a joke of it because she said it was therapeutically good for people during COVID. That son of a bitch, I'm telling you, Mitch McConnell, you are nothing but a snake in the grass piece of shit that manipulates every powerful company in the nation so that bills can keep going and moving and you can let their greedy fucking asses keep it. Mitch McConnell, you're the worst. You gotta go, dude. Term limits, you're the reason. Gone. I hate that fucking guy.
Nice.
I mean, I just don't. We've seen him in strong support of the hemp industry. We've seen him sign bills with a hemp pencil or a pen. You know what I mean? I don't get where he throws this.
And he won't open up banking. Let's just think about that, guys. Let's think about this. People get killed. People die. People are in fear because you have to move money with cannabis. This is happening already. This guy's allowing that to continue. Again, a systemic racist. That man must go. America deserves better than that.
Right now,
bitch, I can't stand that man. I'm telling you, I cannot stand Mitch McConnell.
No, it's true, man. I mean, literally, we got rid of Sessions, and now it seems like McConnell is the biggest the hurdle that we got to get over here, and hopefully somehow we can fix this quickly enough.
I get angry when I hear that name McConnell. I can't stand that guy.
Oh, yeah, I don't blame anybody who supports cannabis.
And I don't like Pelosi either. I think that woman, oh my God, God bless all the infant. What do they have? Something implanted in her ear so they can talk to her while she it's like it's so weird. The woman's so sick. It's sick. Some of the things that come up from her, it's like, what happened to Democrats? They'd have allowed the farthest reaches of the left-hand side to get thrown into the stew to create almost fear-mongering. Like, that's what I'm doing about this race thing. I'm not race baiting. It's a fact. You're in that stew. And McConnell, of all people in our nation, you want to take flags and statues down? Of all bigots and racists in our nation, there's no bigger one than Mitch McConnell. He has to go.
Yeah, no, I agree totally. And then we were talking about the medical side of cannabis and these comments made. And then you look overseas, today, Thailand, the officials have approved a draft that will allow farmers, health professionals, and medical patients to cultivate, produce, and export cannabis products. Now, if this bill goes through, will this be one of the leaders in the medical industry? That's my next question. We all talked about Thailand for years now. We know Dr. Uma's been over there and has really, pushed the medical side of things. But we also know how illegal cannabis is over there. So,
well, it's a funny thing. You should ask that. She's going to be on my show tomorrow, and everybody should watch because we'll be talking a little bit about that. We'll be touching base on that. But internationally speaking, regardless of a nation legalizes and all this for export and like Canada and so forth. It's funny that the RICO Act isn't being placed on Boehner. It's not being placed on all the people who are capitalizing money revenues from cannabis. And it's just a specific law that says this, yet they're ignoring it. Well, they're trying to do it through hemp.
Well,
hemp is cannabis.
One of the cool things they did say, and this was something that I guess was brought to the table last year, they announced that they would process seized illegally grown cannabis into medicines for the domestic market. So instead of destroying, the seized illegally grown cannabis that they're actually grabbing, they're actually going to process it and still put it into medicines, which is probably a cool way of doing things rather than just burn plants down. Especially if in states in America as well. I don't know why we don't do that especially when we're, seizing products from people illegally, redistribute them back in. But I know, talking with Tim and things like that in Vermont, if you get caught with what we call hot hemp, which is just over the legal allowance, then typically the only place you can sell that back to is the dispensary. Is that correct, Tim?
Not anymore. The new revisions of the most recent revisions of the hemp rules, it's destroyed. Now you destroy it. If you have hot hemp, it's destroyed. End of story. No mitigation, no selling it back, no doing anything.
No
Nothing.
washing, no rinsing, and extraction.
Yep, they're getting in line with the USDA. They have to. If they have any chance of having their hemp plant passed, it has to be in alignment, and the USDA is very
That's true.
clear.
That policy is, in
Mitigation
fact,
is destruction.
you're right. You're right about that, because on a federal level, that goes for all states, and even in Florida. Now, the only state that has, well, I'll call it a state, a nation, is Puerto Rico. And in Puerto Rico, they're at they're labeled at number 2, Schedule 2, so they can scientifically study it, export it, and they're able to do things that we can't do in the U.S. That's something that people need to understand as well, that, you know, you talk about Thailand right now, and I know because I'm involved with some very large opportunities there in Puerto Rico with some very big players, that Puerto Rico is probably going to be in competition, if not will become one of those places that, you know, pharmaceuticals and even like our iota mist at Bubba Kush brands, these very high grade, dialed in genetic altering cannabinoids will be manufactured soon. So get ready. I mean, you know, we talk about, you know, doing DNA swab and understanding, you know, you might have a propensity of this, and this might happen through these years of your life and so forth, that if we're able to use cannabinoids and THC to help restructure our neurotranspondies and our mitochondrial engines, so to speak, is because that's what it does. A lot of good science will be coming very quickly now, especially with the new type of quantum computers that we have. So be ready, everybody. We're going to find out truly that cannabis is what they say it is. And the big effect is that gasoline companies, petrol-grade chemicals and poisons that they put into our foods and preservatives and pills that they issue to us from the medical arena is going to be going to a wayside. And they're trying to, remember what they did with solar-powered vehicles? Oh, no, yeah, no. Well, you see what Tesla did? Fuck you. Now that company's gone through the roof, and well, what's going to happen? What do you think's going to happen? Petro food's going to go to the wayside. Pharmacopoeia will go back down. Holistic remedies and holistic solutions, and our organism, which are holistic, will find more and more commonality with that than we did with these poisons. So yeah, it'll happen now in the next 50, 100 years. I don't know, but it's happening now. And what's important is people are woke now. We're waking up, and the transition's beginning. So well, that's really pretty cool. It's like Thomas, you know, Thomas grows cannabis. You know, we haven't even talked to him. He's sitting the whole time listening to us rattle off political stuff. And here he is, a grower, you know.
I was going to say, Rick, we got to talk some genetics with you, buddy.
Well, you know, I know the show's about me, but we have guests, you know, and I love Timothy, man. He's really
great chatting with you, Rick. This is a lot of fun. I love it.
He's fucking angry.
He's so on point.
I love this. It's so on point. I love that the commonality there between us and the message. And I'm hoping that you received from me some of these things that are very critical to the heredity of the legacies that we'll leave behind for the future. Okay, it's really critical. Absolutely. We're making history. I tell everybody all the time, like Heather Marie Brown, you know, we're making history today. We're making history.
We make history every day. We look out to make history. We're trying to make history. Hopefully history will be made. Let's switch gears a little bit real quick, because I want to discuss a few things about Rick, because now we're discussing politics. Let's get back to Rick a little bit. The thing I'd like to talk about here is genetics, right? We had CryoCure on a few weeks ago, cannabis flower. Right now, you are one of the spokesmen for CryoCure. You mentioned earlier that you're getting involved with branding and being an influencer of such. We had CryoCure on, right? A few weeks ago. It's a great technology. Tell us what brought you to CryoCure. Explain to us the technology just a little bit more, and maybe you and Thomas can go back and forth on that, because Thomas is really involved in that kind of an aspect as well, and the benefits of CryoCure. You know what I mean? Because like we kind of ran out of time last time we talked to them, because we had Ed and Danny Danko on. Big shout out to those guys, and we could talk forever about it. But in your opinion, as an influencer, someone who's not really involved in that project, who made it happen, but who has tried the product, believes in the product, seen the product, a lot of people say it's basically a scam. It doesn't work. It's no, people don't understand until you smoke it, right? And when you smoke it, it's a different thing. Let's talk about that a little bit. Talk about your involvement with CryoCure.
All right, let's bounce that off. We'll bounce off the CryoCure, so we follow up with the shows and my family, because it's what it is. The cannabis, I call it the arena. The cannabis arena is the name I gave this probably 4 or 5 years ago. It used to be the cannabis community. It's the cannabis arena. So here I am. I'm invited by the Borgensons, Jeremy, and the gang over at the Harvest Cup. and you know, to do what I do, you know, welcome people, say hello, be a dignitary and a diplomat for the event, and the different sponsors, and welcoming and shaking hands, taking photographs and so forth. And I'm making my rounds, and I'm going through the aisles and seeing all my friends from all the festivals, because remember, you know, the Can Arena began at a festival with the hippies in the 60s. And we can never lose sight of the fact that without the hippies, you wouldn't have had that peace and love to continue on all these generations. And now it's starting to affect people. So it's like my logo, share the love. That's what I do, share the love. So I'm walking around sharing the love, and I look up, I'm walking down an aisle, and I look up, because if you know Greg's like 7 foot fucking tall. This guy's huge. And I look up, and he's like, you know, towering over everybody. He sees me. And then I'm talking to guests and different vendors, and I'm making my way down. And as I got right down to his table, he came out from behind his table, and he goes, "Man, who the hell are you?" I looked at him and I laughed, and I go, "Oh, that's funny, man. I'm Rick Naya. I'm considered the great grandfather of hybrid cannabis, man. And this is what I do. I'm this, that, and the other." And he was like, "Wow, man, I knew you were somebody." And I go, "Well, that's cool, man. What do you do?" He goes, "Come here, man. I got to show you this revolutionary technology." And I'm like, "All right." And he sits there and he explains it to me. And then he pulls out a big vial. It must have been a 2-foot vial with these huge colas. And he takes out the biggest cola and he breaks out the biggest piece of it. And he gives me a bud about that long, must have been about 2.5 inches round. And I felt it, smelt it, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, "You did that with that machine, dude? How did you keep it so moist?" And how? He goes, no, listen, go out and smoke a joint with your buddies and then come back. And I said, "Right on. I'm going to do that, dude. I'll be right back." So we went out and blazed up the whole thing. We rolled up one of those big monster blunts, and we sat there. So we got gooned out. The flavor, everything about it was so amazing. We were like, "Dude, this is unbelievable. I got to go back." So we go back. "Hey, listen, dude, what's up with this? Let's talk a little more." So he explains a lot of the science to me. And then I realized, wow. So if I was a multi-tiered, multi-state operator, and I had, 10, 20,000 square feet of space just for curing and trimming and, getting everything organized, just to get it into my jars, that if I were to be able to say, "Hey, you don't need 10,000 feet anymore. You don't need the cost of taxes and all those expensive employees, because I'm going to dry your product in 24 hours and you're going to have it trimmed out, ready to go in your jar or to be pressed for rosin, fully preserved from medical grade facility." So it went from medical grade to continuance of medical grade, and then all biologically, it's been clean. You can't find a cannabis. I don't just me. I've been around, man. So if I kept it in a medical grade facility the entire time and everything's medically grade, so when I got my jar, I knew that the cannabis in it was that pure and that clean. I couldn't find it that well. So that was one thing. Then I looked at how it preserved the terpenes and the trichomes. The cannabis was still sticky. It wasn't like dry crumble, like already, when, cannabis is already dry, it'll snap and you can break it up pretty decent or tug on it. It's got a nice little tug still if it's still a little moist and doing good, but it doesn't always have that ooey gooey gooiness still in it. This kept it. And that kind of blew me away. Then I knew if I would have pressed this, that means my rosin's going to come back even that much more. And we did, and it came back more. It was so we knew it was like, so look, you can't lie about a product if you try it, and then you can't lie about it if it's proven. So he's proven it. It doesn't lie, and I'm not the only one to say it. Yes, I'm one of their primary influencers, but you don't influence Rick. You don't get my Rick Naya cannabis seal of approval on your product unless I know this is like the real deal. And it's the real deal. Those guys are the real deal. Danny Danko, myself, Ed Rosenthal, were primary influencers and partners with CryoCure. I wouldn't put my name on anything if I didn't believe it. And I just think it's the next best thing for the largest of the industries or big companies right now. But soon they'll have them for the mid-sized to home grow style. It's difficult to cryogenetically cure, let's say you guys do 2 plants, that's the expense versus the return. I don't believe would be there. But then again, if you guys increase up 12 plants and then, hey, look, I got, 10, 15, 20 pounds. It depends on how well you grow. It might come in handy for you because you can get it out to your market, or if you're a caregiver to your patients, that much quicker and preserved that much better. So I think it's a unique factor as to how cannabis will evolve, and how really good medical grade and recreational grade craft growers cannabis should be cured and preserved. You know, cannabis aggregates, and you can only keep it in a jar for so long.
Right.
With CryoCure, you can keep it in there for over a year, pop it open, put it back in the jar, and keep it in there for those 3 or 4 months, and still be killer. It's amazing. It's just,
well, I'll tell you, Rick, as long as it's actually open in a controlled environment, say in a proper amount of humidity and not in a room that's too humid, it'll easily last for 2 years or more, and you won't notice any amount of degradation of terpenes at all. I actually personally use a CryoCure type process myself, but with a much smaller home style freeze dryer machine that I manipulated myself to work like CryoCure. So when they told me that they were actually going to be coming out with the smaller home-based model, I was actually really excited, because I have a lot of customers that are going out and buying home residential-based freeze dryers and then having them manipulated based on my specifications to work, because there's no product out there that's going to work for these small homes where they can just put it in their bedroom or put it on the kitchen counter, sort of thing, unless they go with a home-based freeze dryer. So
yeah, well,
when
you're calling it a freeze dryer. You know, the CryoCure unit isn't a freeze dryer really. It's truly scientifically designed. Yes, they do use a very cold temperatures to do it, but it doesn't make it brittle or dry. It's balanced at a very it's all digitized. They do it so well.
I say freeze dryer because I specifically use a home-based freeze dryer model and manipulate it to do the exact same thing as the CryoCure system. That's why I was so excited when they said they were going to be making the home-based model, because now I can tell customers, now you can just go out and purchase this thing, as opposed to having to do all these manipulations that I had to
You know what
out.
you might want to do, you know, because this is my family, these are my friends, maybe we talk to them and say, look, you know, check this out, you know, and no infringings and no nothings, just, you know, brothers, and say, hey, look, brother, this is what's happening and this is what's there. What do you think with what you guys do? Because theirs is like a complete stainless steel, high medical grade, like what the it's space age, dude. I call it like space age rocket ship weed. It just, you look at it, you just go, what the hell? It looks like you just cut it off the plant.
It's really built properly for the medical market. I mean, like you said,
well, now we're looking at home, because see, some guys, you know, like Thomas, myself, and many other great breeders and craft growers and championship cannabis cup winners grow phenomenal weed, and maybe they want to get their weed in there done in a day, and they don't want to wait, you know, 2-3 months before it cures outright, and they can get a curing that's incredible and get returns on their trichome and their terps that are not like you can when you dry it. That's the one thing that the cryo system does and provides. It's just, the return of your investment is in the ROO. Plants that produce more trichomes and surface area for trichomes produce more oil. ROO, return of oil. Therefore, your ROI is greater. So big companies understand this and can afford these big units, but I like the idea of a home-based unit, maybe under $1,500, $2,500, so someone can put in a pound and have it done, or maybe 2 pounds and have it done in 24 to 36 hours, and still have fine-ass weed, you know?
Seeing that price point for a small home-based model from CryoCure would be awesome, because in reality, I know you don't know. I had asked Greg about it too, and he had said he had no idea on pricing, especially because it requires the vacuum or the oilless pump. The oilless pump itself is like $1,500. So
okay, so there you have it. And then you know, you look at it. You're right. And then the design build that they built this thing, you should see it, dude. It's like a piece of a spacecraft, dude. It belongs at NASA. If you look at the weld, you look at the whole
smaller,
thing, it's like,
I think $30,000 units. Amazing.
Right. Those units that were built USA, but the builders that do it, their company, they are phenomenal, man. The stuff that they do, I've seen the work is top notch, American made all the way, like, wow. And they didn't settle for like second chump shit. Greg is not like that. Greg would rather, I love Greg. A true pioneer, man. This guy's a pioneer, not just for cryo curing. He's you know, he's he's the flower factory man, and he can grow some factory ass weed that's a phenomenal breeder. Greg has some of his own branded cannabis, and he's really devout to craft, not just craft, but the ROO of the craft. And that's where the CryoCure came in. And my brothers and my friends over at Valhalla Laboratories, I love them, Crane Brain, is friends with Greg, and they pretty much, see, Gypsy Glass is Valhalla Labs, and that's Crane Brain. Crane Brain is like a 4th or 5th generation cannabis provider and grower from Michigan. And he's the guy that's designed all the, well, not all, but much of the glass necessary for extractions to operate for cannabis at the levels that are professional. So he's one of the top guys in the world at this glass stuff. And not only that, he's a great grower and produces some of the best product in the world. And he's learned, and they've taught each other. And now Greg's the CryoCure because they know the CryoCure gives them back more of what they want. And they've taught themselves, or he's taught Greg how to extract at high levels now. And these guys are producing some of the rare finest stuff that I have to say in the planet. It's that good. The science is with the guy. The guy's the science madman. That's why he's called Crane Brain. And he's been in many magazines, and his families have been in magazines years ago, and very talented. So they know that the CryoCure, and I'm kind of neat to know that you tried to do your own. I think it's cool that that Thomas tried to make his own, because he knows that there's a way, and there is, but it's the money that's needed to do it at that level, you know. And safely, because mind you, theirs is under pressure a lot, not just a little. These things have to be made in a way that won't explode or cause injury. And they're all UL and certified and all those things, you know. They're not patent pending, they're patented, and all the things that they're doing, they don't play games. And I love Tracy. I don't know if you knew this about Tracy McPhee. She, brilliant woman, Shark Tank. Yep, she helped fund that. She's the one to help got Shark Tank. And Home Shopping Network, oh yeah, that's Tracy. Tracy's very well known in marketing and development of television shows and all kinds of things. She's a brilliant woman. And Greg, just one of the coolest men I've ever known, and I love him like a brother. You know, I just love Greg. It wasn't even about CryoCure. I love Greg and Tracy, and that's how we became friends, just being us.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing the story how they were influenced by just an article that Ed Rosenthal wrote, what'd they say, 8 to 10 years ago, talking about how he was sticking just his weed in the freezer. You know what I mean? It's amazing how a little story like that turns into this project, which has been amazing. And like we were talking about before, the medical side of things is if you're a cannabis smoker, you know, this pretty much locks in a good chunk of all your cannabinoids, right? We're not losing any to the curing procedures. We're not losing any.
Well, no, yeah. Well, here's the thing, Joe. Here's what's funny. The very little that does is in the moisture do on the downside. So when they remove the moisture out and they regulate all that, that moisture will contain some flavonoids and will contain some terps. And what they've done is they've captured them so that you can get them, bring them into your room, and Greg boils them off, uses them, and he captures them all. He doesn't lose anything. He doesn't lose it all.
The byproduct is very minimal. It's water, right? Because it's all
right, very really minimal, but he's still able to capture. Because, you know, imagine doing, you know, hey, I'm going to put in 200 pounds, and you come back with, you know, maybe a pint of this water. And in that water, you might get 10 grams of flavonoids and terp flavors. And that's what he's doing. He's not losing.
You reclaim it right back off the top. It's great.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Honestly an impressive science. I've definitely tried some of Thomas's cannabis, and you know.
Oh boy, me too.
It's phenomenal, and for me, you know, from my experience, you know, it's kind of like taking something that's a whole broad spectrum, full spectrum versus something that's just an isolate. You know what I mean? When I think about smoking weed, I feel like the THC highs all the time. But when I smoke the CryoCure weed, I feel that entourage effect. I don't feel that brain cranium smash as much as probably some people would like. But on the other end, no, I feel good. I feel great. I feel energized. It's super clean. I cannot believe how clean it burns and smoothly it burns. And I know that's a lot of the grower dependent, you know what I mean, and what they're using. But everything I've tried from a cryocure standpoint has been phenomenal. You know
Well,
what
here's what you'd like. You know, most people think if you're going to cryocure it, it's going to take all of that chlorophyll and it's going to lock it in and it's going to taste like greenery. Far from the truth. The way that they do the process, it removes the gases, and it's just it's an amazing piece of equipment. You can freeze dry weed, and you can put moisture in. You can try to balance it out with a humidity controller. I bet you there's several little things you could probably do, but not like the way that they're doing it. It's science there. There's some real science, and it's neat to see that Thomas is so interested in that and trying to create one that will do the same things. And I think it's worth just keep talking to Greg and talking to Thomas and come up with some kind of an idea.
Yep.
Yeah,
no, I think it's a wonderful thing, and once they can figure out a way to make it cheaper, more accessible to the home grower, I think we're going to see a lot more.
Well, here's one of the critical things you have to understand is it's done in a cylinder, so it's round. And remember, it has to be round because it's pressurized. You don't pressurize squares or rectangles.
They blow up.
You can only to a certain point before something will give. That's why, when you go deep diving, they're done in cylinders, and you go up in outer space, it's a cylinder. That's the pressure. So that itself. So you can only make a tray so small to get a container so big, that gets so big, that gets so heavy, that has so much componentry to it on a table. That's why, Greg and their design team, they're really, trust me, the first thing they wanted to do is to make a home one. But they knew that the way to really get it dialed in was with the big companies that could really benefit from it right now. And that's where the science was. But now, of course, it's like a Timex. It started out a Rolex and ended up a Timex, So, reverse technology, things will happen, and in time, it'll evolve. Maybe they'll make one that you put on in your microwave, hit a button, the microwave does something, and it, who knows? Kids, leave it to the kids. Whoever would have thought back in the day, hey man, what are those crystals in the baggie? I don't know, let's melt them and see. Because back in the day, I'm going to be very honest with you, trichomes was a different situation. Trichomes was looked at as hash. It was collected and held and pressed for hash oils. It was a little different than the technologies that went through BHO and now these other gases and so forth. I'm all about the cold water, if anybody wants to know.
Yep, no, the hash, cold water hash is pretty much the best way of doing it. We talk about it a lot. Thomas, is a big fan of the hash method. I think a lot of people who enjoy cannabis are. I just don't, is it a dying art? Are people getting away from that with the new technologies though? I mean, do we see hash as prevalent as we once did?
I think the biggest issue with hash is that the yield just isn't there in comparison to ethanol extraction or BHO or CO2. So you've got all these companies that are like, oh, I need to get as much yield as possible so I can make as much money as possible. Or you get the home growers like, I'm only limited to 2 flowering plants. I got to get as much as I possibly can. Those are the guys that are going to opt for the BHO or the ethanol extraction or the CO2. The ones that are actually after that connoisseur product, they're the ones that are going after a fresh frozen bubble hash that they can then press into a full melt rosin and put that rosin directly into a cartridge all by itself and not have to add any additives to it whatsoever and walk around with it like you're a boss.
I love that. That great explanation, Thomas.
That'd be a wonderful thing if we could ever make that happen. And it needs to happen. I mean, we got to figure out that science. That way patients can get their real medicine, because as we know, the vape cart issues after distillation processes and all the processes, it really isn't medicine anymore. I mean, it's great for stoners. It's great to get high with, but is that, like I tell people all the time, it's like kind of like getting drunk to fix a toothache. You know what I mean? It may help for a minute, but in the end, it's not doing nothing to help you physically. But Thomas, I'm going to try to do something here real quick. Look at the time. I know we started late. I do have your video here ready to go. Who knows if it's going to work with the day we're having here? But I do want to get you. Yeah, right. I do want to get your video on and see if I can figure this out, guys. So please bear with us. This is a great show, guys. I appreciate you being on.
I'm going to start changing my screen. I'm going to start fucking around.
There you go. And then I got a couple more things to discuss with Timothy Fair. One is a lawsuit that a 7-year-old grandma is putting against Disney World. So I want to talk about that case. I think we all heard about it. And what kind of implication can this have if she wins. And I'll tell you right now, she has one hell of a legal team. So we'll come back in a few moments, guys. We're going to skip to Timothy. We're going to skip to Thomas Markham of Vermont Grow Coaching with his. Tom, you want to tell us what we're talking about this week?
Yeah, so today we're doing a quick and easy bubble cloner using nothing but a small air pump and a coffee mug.
All right, guys, here we go. Let's see if this works. Stay tuned.
Hey guys, Tom with Vermont Grow Coaching here, and welcome to Grower's Guide, your weekly beginner-friendly cannabis tips and tricks. This week on Grower's Guide, we're going to be talking to you about cloning. Now, we've talked to you about cloning in the past. We've talked about airline cloning, and we've talked a little bit about using root pods or other sorts of rock wool formations, as well as cloning directly into soil. However, we haven't really touched base on bubble cloning. So today, we're going to be touching base on the easiest way to get you started with bubble cloning right in your own home. So traditionally, you can actually start clones directly on your windowsill in a glass of water. Clones, for the most part, will still root using this process, changing out the water every 3 or 4 days. However, the clones do prefer to have an aerated water during this process. So one of the things we're going to be teaching you today is how to use a basic coffee cup to create a bubble cloner. Now, the first thing you're going to need is going to be an air pump. This little air pump here actually is only about 2 watts, so it doesn't use much power at all. And we actually have it hooked up on a splitter to have 2 hoses. That way we can actually run 2 different cups at the same time. You see here, we actually have 2 clones in this measuring cup here. Both these clones were taken within the last 20 minutes or so. They're both super happy and ready to transplant. They each have a little neoprene collar on them. Now, these neoprene collars are not necessary. You can just use a piece of tape to hold your plant in place in the cup. However, if you do have access to these collars, they are definitely beneficial to this process. Now, as far as nutrients are concerned for your clones, if you're using well water or spring water, for the most part, as long as your water is decent and your plants are usually happy being fed that water, it's going to be perfect for your clones. As long as you're taking a healthy clone, the clone isn't going to need any more nutrients than what's already available in its leaves and in the water in order to properly root. Now, if you do decide to go with some sort of nutrient, we do usually suggest going with a light compost tea, maybe adding a little bit of humic acid, some aloe, etc., and not actually going the route of synthetic nutrients, even when growing in hydroponics. Now, when we took our clones, we already went ahead and added a little bit of aloe and humic acid to our water directly here in the measuring cup. When we took the clones, we did do a little bit of shaving on the sides of the bottom of the clone to help root growth. So there isn't really much more that's needed other than to get these clones into their new homes. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to use the same water that we took the clones and set them in for the last 20 minutes or so. This water, again, has a little bit of aloe in it as well as a little bit of humic acid. You can add a little bit of compost tea if you want, but again, not necessary. You could do this with straight water if you're using a proper well or spring water. pHing is definitely beneficial, but again, this is a simplistic method, and for the most part, you will still get beneficial results even without pHing your water. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take this measuring cup, we're going to take this coffee cup here. The reason I'm using a coffee cup is because the roots do not like light for the most part, so we don't want to use a glass bottle or a glass cup or anything for the most part, just to help root development. So we're going to take this Pyrex here and pour about half of it, so about a cup of water into this coffee cup here. From there, you're going to take either one of your plants. Now, you can go ahead and trim some of the leaves back if you'd like to, but in the environment we use, this is not necessary, and we actually like to leave the leaves on to provide a little bit more additional nutrients to the clone as it roots. So we're going to go ahead and put this directly in the water. Now, as the clones sit in the water here, you're going to notice you don't have any leaves underneath the collar. The collar is going to have some stem sitting directly in the water, but there will be no leaves actually touching the water itself. From there, you're going to take your air pump, you're going to get it plugged in, turned on. You're going to take your air hose. You should have a small amount of bubbling in the water itself. That's going to help keep the water aerated, providing oxygen to the plant while it roots. It's also going to help prevent the water from going stagnant. We still like to switch out the water every 2 or 3 days using this method. However, you can usually go up to a week or 2 without too many issues. Again, though, changing every 2 or 3 days is going to ensure optimal health for the plant and is also going to help prevent any issues that you might run into as far as bacteria and mold. Thanks for tuning into Grower's Guide. Hopefully now you should have a general idea as to how you can create a bubble cloner right at home. If you have any questions or concerns regarding this segment, or would like to set up a consultation appointment, please reach out to us at 802-342-5381. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram, or contact us directly at vermontgrowcoach.com.
All right, guys, another awesome segment from Thomas there. Man,
That was awesome, man. I dug that, Thomas, man. That
we
was
see a lot
well
of people
done,
have
bro.
issues with cloning. And you know, it's always it's hard to tell people how to do it because there's many different ways, right? That's a great, easy way to do it at home for specific, especially a small grower, right?
Absolutely. Given the plant counts in Vermont, it's the perfect route to go. Most of the cloning systems like that you can purchase are like 24 site cloners. Like, great, I've got a 24 site cloner, but I can only fill 2 sites. What the heck?
Right? Yeah, especially in Vermont. So that's a great one.
That's funny.
So we went before break there, before Thomas's segment. We brought up the 70-year-old grandma. Now the reason why I bring this up is, you know, it made big news a few months ago, as we all know. We all remember her getting busted because she had CBD oil in her bag at Disney World, right? Now in Florida, we know, you know, laws down there are a lot different than they are across the country. They look at things very different. But she was removed from the park, right? And then held in jail, right? And then the charges were dropped about 12 days later, and now she's suing Disney.
I wish I was her lawyer. All I can say. It's a great case.
It looks like she has a crazy legal team. Now, Tim, does she have any grounds to sue on me? Especially
absolutely. It's not going to be a matter of win or lose. It's going to be a matter of how many zeros to put on the check. Really, I mean, when you read the complaint, assuming that her legal team, who Ben Crump is very well known as her, and that's why, I mean, very well-known law firms don't get involved in cases unless there's a reason, and the reason is they know they're going to recover. It's an amazing story. I mean, these sheriff deputies treated her a drug-sniffing dog. She had $1,200 in cash on her for her family vacation with her family at the gates to Disneyland, and they're treating her like she's some sort of drug dealer. Then they classify her CBD oil as hashish and charge her with a felony narcotics charge. Yeah. This 69-year-old woman, handcuffed her throat. Did they beat her? Did they abuse her? No, thankfully. You know, her skin could have looked darker. We don't know. She could be dead. You know, but regardless, it was absolutely 100% negligence on behalf of everybody involved. From the park down to the sheriffs who were involved. Sheriffs, unfortunately, will probably have what's known as qualified immunity, which is that lovely protection that law enforcement gets from civil suit when they're doing their job. They have to basically shove a plunger up the wrong side of you to be able to get past that. That's how extreme the actions have to be. But Disney's deep pockets, and they'll go after Disney, and Disney will settle. Disney does not want to put this in front of a jury. You do not want 12 people looking at a 69-year-old innocent grandmother talking about being, you know, subjected to drug sniffing dogs and being seized and being arrested over CBD. And you don't want that in front of a jury. So they're going to be settling this, and it's good. These suits need to be brought. Law enforcement needs to be held to some consequences for treating this like it was 20 years ago, calling CBD oil hashish, arresting a 69-year-old grandmother. I mean, this is just such an over extreme of what needed to happen, and having it be so public. And so, I mean, the humiliation alone. You know, you could have a pretty successful lawsuit if a Walmart security guard, you know, holds you for shoplifting when you didn't do it. This case is that on steroids times 1,000. So I'm happy, and I wish I wish you the best. I hope she makes some recovery, and I hope these cops learn a lesson. Leave it alone. It's over. It's done. Your drug war on cannabis is dying.
Right on.
Right. Well,
So
I mean, we're talking about this drug war, right? I read a great article that came out a couple days ago. I don't know if you guys have caught wind of this yet, but a disabled Iraqi veteran faces 5 years in an Alabama prison for legally prescribed medical marijuana that he got in his home state of Arizona and was driving through Alabama, and is now facing 5 years in prison for literally admitting that he had legal cannabis that was subscribed to him and he purchased through a dispensary. And now it looks like he's still facing 5 years in jail, Tim. I don't know if you're familiar with this case or not, but it looked like it happened about 4 or 5 years ago. Are these cases we should be prosecuting? Is this something that's a waste of time? I mean, this is a medical. It wasn't like he was found with pounds. You know what I mean?
There's
It wasn't
no debate
100 pounds of
there.
hemp.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But that shows you how much power that individual state's attorneys and prosecutors have. The most powerful elected position out there is the one people don't even realize, and that's your local district or state's attorney, your local prosecutor, because they have an unbelievable amount of autonomy and authority to go after whatever they want, really. Very, very few limitations. You know, as long as it's blatantly not unconstitutional or blatantly racist, and I mean, it needs to be blatantly racist, you know, or going after just real targeted, they get away with anything. The prosecutors, they're the ones who bring the charges. There's nobody really policing the police at that level. We talk about police reform, and that obviously is important, but we need prosecutorial reform too. The entire criminal justice system needs to be overhauled. And there are some very good ones. We're blessed here in Burlington and Chittenden County, Vermont, with a phenomenal prosecutor, one of the most progressive prosecutors in the country. Philadelphia right now, the district attorney of Philadelphia is an incredibly progressive individual. They get it, but that's by far the minority. Most are like these Alabama prosecutors who I'm sure don't care. He's a veteran, don't care about anything. He has weed, that's a drug. We're not legalizing in this state, and we're going to come down hard. And in a way, they'll actually come down harder as a consequence of legalization to the movement, because it's the only way they feel they can take some power back. Because they see they're slipping away from them. And they've been prosecuting people like this for 20 years. And they've destroyed families and locked people up and seized property and seized homes. You know, and they're not just going to turn around and go, sorry, I forgot.
No, I mean,
you know, that's not going to happen. They're going to stick to this like just rabid, and they're going to go after people, and they're going to go after innocent people, and that sucks. And that's why we really need to keep fighting. And it's never good enough. It's not okay that there's 11 states. We need 12, and once we have 12, we need 14, and once we have 14, we need 18. And until this country has a legal, sane policy on cannabis.
Yep. No, I agree.
Keep fighting.
I completely agree. And the headlines, like I'm reading, like right now, that are basically talking about, and this is a Ganjapreneur article. Black people the black people comprise 97% of all the Albany, New York cannabis arrests and tickets. That's a staggering number. And Albany is not a small little town by any means.
New York City, the first 6 months of 2019, Joe, 87% of your low-level marijuana arrests were Black or Latino.
And people are wondering why people are starting to stand up and make their voices heard and take a stand finally, especially with what we've seen lately in our country, as far as even the racism line gets crossed and is becoming an issue, which, you know, I think we're all in agreement here, and then Rick nailed it on the head earlier that, you know, cannabis has no color. One of the biggest reasons why I think all of us in this Zoom chat right now, and who will probably tune in, listen to us, turn to cannabis because it was open to all races, because, you know, the plant doesn't hold a color to anybody, right? You know, one of my biggest things for the first couple of years of legalization out here was I was blown away by how mixed race it was, and how, from an industry standpoint, the women empowerment, right, and the social equity involvements. Like, we don't hear about this in any other industry, right? We don't see people fighting for these things in any other industry. And now, regardless, you know, we don't see any other industries throwing people in jail like we did for cannabis. But what do we got to do to stop this? Like, how does this end? Like, where does this end? I mean, this is obviously, I mean, if this can't be an issue for a race debate, what else could be, right?
Somebody on the show said something about, feels like they're at Christmas watching the show because I keep changing my background. Right on.
Well, Rick's not used to having this, like, being able to hang out and talk on his end. It's kind of interesting for Rick. I mean, he's used to being in the other chair, you know. So now
this is fun. This is fun. I love Timothy. I don't know what. I just love Timothy. He's fucking.
I'm having a blast, Rick. This is great.
You're killing it.
My fiance's about
Dude,
to kill
you know
me.
what? While you're talking, I'm just going like this and go. It's like it sounds like me all over again. It's fucking so cool. I'm popping off, listening to people, and I'm listening to Timothy like, oh my God, really? He's killing this. Awesome.
That's why we have Tim here, man. Like,
Yeah,
great
fucking
topic.
awesome.
A lot of fun.
he's a great
Good
way to
shit.
put the stamp on what's going on, man. And like, we tend to repeat and sound like a broken record a lot, but
Well,
we're constantly trying to educate people and remind people where we're at in this war, I guess you could say, right?
well, remember I said it earlier, Joe. I said, we're called people that listen, man. Cannabis isn't this thing. There's no mystery. It's not an egg that's frying in a frying pan that's going to kill you. There's something that's truly astonishing. That if you look at the statistics of people who consume cannabis and their families, a family of 4, from when they get married, their children go off to college. The children that are married to the people who consume cannabis go off to be more successful in business, have more, are first to get cars. There's a lot of statistics regarding people in the canna culture versus those that are not. So it's really kind of funky. Now let's subjugate arrests of people of color, but I'm just talking about a typical white family people that people consume and all this business that are cool. Yeah, they got out really well in life. They seem to do really well. They got great networks of friends. They have great communal ties, and they get back to the community. So it's really quite something. Those of us that understand the culture of cannabis know, man, it's in a movement. I can appreciate the hard work Tim's doing right now too, because I can hear it. To me, it's like a bell going off in my head. All those years standing in the State House, not alone either. I mean, I had Alka Golther was there. Heather Marie Brown came a few years later. Mike Simon was always there, a consummate paid lobbyist to go do what he had to go do. And yeah, I invited all those people to my festivals. They were part of it. Festivals is where I was able to bridge the community. And I always do this now. This is the new thing. It's, this is cool and all, but this is like bridging the community. What do we mean by that? Because, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont's kind of out there. You guys, it's always been that way. If you're Vermont as fuck, and that's the way, that's all there is to it. If you're from Vermont, you know what that means. You're Vermont as fuck out there. You don't need anybody in your business. You don't need anybody in your lives. You don't need anybody telling you. You keep your policies not over-regulated. You try not to, it's really pretty cool, actually. Vermont's a cool place. Vermont's kind of out there. You guys.
Or a little feedback.
I like out there. Being weird is cool. Being weird is being yourself. I like being weird. I like being different.
No, definitely. We all
Rick,
see ourselves.
Rick, I actually wanted to touch base on the bit that you mentioned about families and the kids being more successful in that aspect. I wholeheartedly believe in that 100%. I am 100% a family man. I'm a father of 4 kids, 3 daughters and a son. And between the 4 of them, at the end of the school year, oh, what are you guys going to do this summer? I'm going to go work with Dad on the hemp farm. Well, why are you going to go do that? Well, because I'm going to make money. Well, why do you need to make? Well, I'm going to make money so I can buy stuff, or I'm going to make money so I can progress, or so I can do this, or so I can buy that, or whatever. And I just love it because I'm able to sit down and do things with my kids and go out and explore the fields and be in nature with them. And my 7-year-old can walk out through a field and yank up males like nobody's business. Dad, I got another one. I got another one. I got another one. As she's walking through the fields, and the farmer's like, how do you do this? Why are they not sitting at home staring at a computer screen or staring at a cell phone? I said, it's the love of the plant. They know how much I need the plant in my life as a medical patient. They know how much I love the plant and how much I need it every day to be part of my business and part of my life and just part of everything about me. So even though they don't use cannabis themselves, obviously at their age, they do use CBD products from time to time and can use hemp as they see fit, obviously not smoking and things of that nature, but they see the products and they see the hemp as a healing plant, and they can actually come out here and go, oh yeah, we're going to be out here in nature and we're going to thrive on life and not be stuck sitting in front of a screen. And I owe it all to this plant.
It's such an invaluable lesson that you're leaving your children, and daughters at that. So it's an extremely important thing. And I mentioned it earlier, remember? It's better to have 2 tomatoes in the hand than a can of tomatoes. So
Absolutely.
To teach your children to take their shoes off and run in the dirt and be grounded and know that sustenance from the earth is what we're made to consume. And if we can get away from all this fast-paced rigmarole, McDonald's, Joe and I we're fast-paced. But when Joe and I want to eat, I'd look at Joe and go, no, Joe, no, we're not going there. We're not going there. No. I want to eat something at least healthier, handmade, something crafted. I want to give something back to the community, so I know it came from the field across the road and the guy up the street that had the pumpkin and whatever. I want to keep it as close to where I'm eating to where I am at. You know what I mean?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yes, and that's.
Hey there.
Hey, look at me, you guys. I'm almost 60 years old. You guys, you know that, right? Look at me. I'm glowing, and there's no lights. My lights are up there.
The iota mist.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'll give credit that the iota mist. Where the hell did I put it? Hey, wait a minute, man. Let me get my iota. You guys go ahead. I'll be right back.
All right, guys. Well, anyways, we're getting kind of close into the show. I know we started late, and I know all of our mutual agreement. I do want to talk to Tim one more thing about before he leaves. That was issued this week, and we had a great discussion on it this week. It was the FDA issues the research guidelines for CBD. Is there anything that we should discuss really quick before you pop off on an update on that, or is it just more of the same old and nothing really got changed?
Well, they're guidelines for pharmaceutical companies, how to test, some laboratory standardization for CBD products, manufacturing products. So, is it the regulations we're hoping for? No. But there was another filing that was a closed filing, but another filing with a bureaucratic agency where regulations would need to be filed prior to being released. So that actually happened 2 days later. So there is some movement. How much movement, what movement that's going to result in, we don't know. There is a lot of pressure on the FDA to get these done. However, obviously COVID, there's a lot more pressure right now to approve, speed through vaccines and approve, untested drugs and everything else that the Trump administration is forcing the FDA to do. Notice they've just recently have a new commissioner of the FDA. Go figure, just about every federal agency's head is bailing because it's insanity right now. I'd like to say we'll see something before the election, but I doubt it. Most likely we're going to have to wait. We'll wait till a new administration until our federal agencies become somewhat functioning again, at least better than they're doing now.
Well, about a week ago, we saw some bipartisan support from Congress, right? Who just voted in favor of protecting legal weed businesses from federal raids, correct?
Like everything, dude. And we talk about this all the time. That was the House. The House of Representatives has passed about 250 bills. You know how many of them made it to the Senate? Zero, zip, zilch, because of our good friend Mitch McConnell, who is the Speaker of the House, the Senate Majority Leader, and controls any bills that come. So because the House passes a bill, that's great. They can pass a bill that we all get, have wings and we're, ride unicorns around or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's about as likely to happen. We need to take the Senate. So people need to get out and vote, because then if we can change it, we can get Mitch McConnell out of there, and we can get a Democratic majority under a Democratic president with a Democratic House. Those House bills become incredibly important because now they actually have a chance at becoming law. Yeah. Right now, there's no chance they get through the Senate. If they got through the Senate, there's no chance they get signed by Trump. So it's kind of like, it's wishful thinking. It's great on one level, it is great. 5 years ago, definitely 10, even 5 years ago, you would not see bills getting through the House related to cannabis. So the fact that they're passing bills, the fact that we're actually seeing bills get out of committee, get out of conference, and get to floors and get the votes, that is great. But it's only one step. We need the Senate. People need to get out and vote. They need to get out and vote. I don't care if they don't like the candidates. I don't care if they don't like the establishment. I don't care. Vote Democrat. Just get a place where they're going to pass these bills. Once momentum gets going, momentum will get going. And ultimately, like anything in our wonderful capitalist economy, money will win out. Money will win out, and this will get passed, and we can start moving forward.
I mean, is this a Democrat-Republican debate? I mean, we see a lot of bipartisanship right now, and
it's more ageist,
right?
Honestly, it's more ageist. It's more ageist. Your age is where you're seeing it, whether it's Democrat or Republican. It's that 65, 70 age bracket that just has this pounded in their heads. The younger Republicans are the ones much more willing to embrace this, and it's the older Democrats that also. But ultimately, we need to get Mitch McConnell out of there. Even if there's still a Republican Senate, if we had a different Senate Majority Leader, but that's not going to happen unless the Democrats hold the House, and then they'll have a Democratic, Senate Majority Leader, and that's where we'll see this happen, if we're going to see that.
There you go.
Term limits. We need
very well put, Timothy. Very good. Gotta have Timothy around. I think
the voters are supposed to take care of that. But
I like this.
You do a real good job.
Yeah, very good.
Listen, guys, I love y'all. Rick, it's been a blast. I gotta go. Have a great night, everybody. Rick, I hope to see you soon. I'm sure I'd see you at NECAN if we were gonna actually have a NECAN, but I'm sure we'll cross paths here.
Timothy, I
good
love
one,
you,
guys.
man. Thank you for the fire, man. Thank you for
It's
everything.
all
It was
great
awesome,
talk.
brother.
All right, guys. Well, I want to say thank you, everybody, too. It's about that time, I think, Rick. Let's sign off, man. We talked so much news and education and politics today. I don't think I've talked so many politics in a long time. We forgot to talk about you, man.
Well, we can talk about me. I think that those people that know me already, there's a lot of people that know that, I'm just Rick Naya. I'm a father and a grandfather. My grandson's birthday, Xander's today. Hi, Xander. I love you. Happy 2nd birthday. So my grandson's 2 today. Very proud of that. My daughter is a frontline nurse, Olivia. I'm very proud of her. And my daughter, Angelina, is working now and a student, and my son as well. And I have an elder daughter, Amanda, who lives in Florida. And her and her fiance, they're like my pride. I love them to pieces. They're super cool people. And my daughter, Amanda, is just such a loving girl. And just they're crafting a really loving family down there. So I'm really pleased and happy. I'm blessed. And as far as me, like I said earlier, I left duality. I don't live in a space like everybody else anymore. It's very hard. I don't wish it on anybody unless you choose to glow and know it's very trying at times. It's very, very trying. But I have friends that know me and they know how I live, and it helps manifest goodwill towards cannabis and the cannabis arena, something that I know that I helped become part of, and I'm now part of the histories of cannabis. And I'm just blessed as a child even to have the Maui Wowie seeds and the Colombian seeds to make the Gainesville Green and become known now as the first rare earth international hybrid in the world. It was bred here in Palm Beach County. It was bred, and it was brought to Gainesville where it was named, and the seeds were gifted to a friend of mine. And from there they went to Washington, and that's where Neville and all of the work that was done with the Afghanis and the different changes into the skunk and into the haze that went over to Europe and became crossbred with all of the international brands that were in Amsterdam. And then finally, when they got tired of those genetics, the Americans came up. We were the ones that now hold the best cannabis on the planet. We breed and grow some of the rarest and most powerful medicine that there is. And I'm really just glad to know that I was just one of those few people who was chosen along the lines and understood what that message was inside that was speaking to me. The great I am. They call it the awesome gene, the God gene that dwelleth within you. And we all have it, and it's like a conscious or a subconscious something that's either good or bad, and you have to listen to it. It's you speaking to yourself, but it really isn't. If you think deeply enough, it's the great I am that dwelleth within thee. And the sooner you understand that, and the sooner you'll be able to tap into things that will help you get down that path that's really where you want to be, and do it happily, and not have to fear like we do with cannabis arrests, or how people of color are subjugated to those arrests, or even worse, and how society was fooled by lies from some very powerful, wealthy politicians and big companies. So that's really where I'm at right now, Rick Naya. I'm giving the love and sharing the love. I'm hoping that very here shortly that Bubba Kush Brands and myself will be influencing that all around the world and the nation here, New England, everywhere I can. I'm also an influencer for my own light company, Clear Light Technologies. I really support the technology there. We have some of the finest engineers there and design patents that we have with this specific lights. And I can't wait to get those really fully out on the market. And just super excited for CryoCure. I mean, I'm branding 2 or 3 names now, but then there's Waver Rio that I'm going to be working with. He sells these really great cigars. And I'm also going to work with Sean Patton at Great Remedies. Golden Remedies. I want to do some chocolates. He's going to make a chocolate of my hand and get that out there. And there's some things I'm doing just slowly. I don't want to, when you philanthropize your money away in your life, you don't want more, you want to give away more.
Right.
And I've done that for years now. And I think now the blessings are coming back, and I'll be able to give in a different form of way, not only to the arena, but to the future, the legacies of our children and their children. And they'll be able to look back as to, Dad, You know, I said this, I think I told you this, Joe. I'm going to tell the world now that a few weeks ago, I saw my son. And when I left duality and stepped into that realm of believing in the higher power and manifestation of good and food and everything I needed, I did that. My son watched me, and my children and my family and some of the community saw this. And many thought, wow, this is foolish. Why have you done this and this and that? But they didn't understand that, you know, something really spoke inside me. And I had to get it all away. The ego was just too much. And it took a lot of soul searching. It took a lot of, 3 years of very, very deep places to better understand that thing that was speaking inside of me wanted to do what I do. And that's just share the love and be real about it. And if anybody wants to call it out, I have the eyes and I'm a gladiator and I'm a warrior for cannabis. You're not going to fool me. You're not going to pull it over on me in our arena nor our community. And we hold to a higher standard, I say it, not in any pun intended, but at the highest echelons of industry, technology, and at life and at home. And my son, he saw something in that, and he said, he came. I get emotional because, he said, Dad, I love you. And I said, why, son? He says, Dad, I was mad at you. And now I know why you do what you do and how you affect people's lives. And how, I see it now, Dad. And at that moment, had lightning struck me dead, I would have known that I'd left love and compassion within my son. And he knows why I do what I do. I don't do it for money. I have none. I give it all away. It's hard to survive, living in prayer. How do you do that? It's just, people always ask me, how do you do that? How are you so alive? Why are you glowing? Because the cannabis arena has been there for me and I've given it all back, and now they see that. And it's a very positive, powerful place to be when those people that you love and respect revere you for just loving them and giving back what you have to help. And whatever I can do to people who stand up tall and do it well and right, because there's a lot of crooked ass sons of bitches out here. We got to be careful. So when you see this more or not lately, you'll see some logos and some people wearing it, and you'll be seeing more and more and more of it. But when you see it on someone's product, that's when you're going to know that's been approved by the great grandfather of hybrid cannabis. And I hope that someday that legacy has me held, as I held Jack Hare, who is a friend of mine, and Ed Rosenthal, who I respect very much, and Dr. Raphael Mashalom, and a number of different doctors that I know. Dr. Dale Buckman, who I adore, and Sherry Tuckus, the Green Nurses, and Laura Miner with the Healing Rose. There's so many people. I could go down a list that would take me probably all afternoon, hours, to go over all the list of the people and companies and businesses that I adore and appreciate because they do things with value and they do it with love and concern for community, children, respect of others. And doing it in the light, in the truth. They don't lie. They do it the right way. They've educated themselves and they've learned, and they're still learning, many of them, but they listen, and they listen to people like me, people of reason. They listen to people like Thomas. He's an educator. They listen to Joe. He's got a radio show, and he brings on guests like us that send the same message, that this is not going away, and the only way that we're going to make the changes that we need for cannabis is through the 4 things that I told you, one of them being love and compassion, and the other 2 are health and wellness. Yep. And we can do that all together. My friends at, Julie Mejia at Holistic Hemp Solutions. I'm popping off these logos right now. These are people that I love. These are you look at Janet McAllister at Hippie Chicks Natural Solutions. A person that saved my life, Jessica Love. At Love Java, that saved my life. The media company that helps me with my show, MediaPath, Circle Signworks, my brothers at the Toking Dead, who are always giving back, one way, shape, form, or another. There are people out there in this industry who, I don't know, they believe in my message, my tone. They believe that I'm sincere. And the people at Bubba Kush, you, Joe, Brandon Barbario, Matt Berger, Jeff Wells, there are people out there that know, Uncle Stoner, Danny Danko. There's a lot of famous people around the world that I know that were so humbled by, you don't know that you are until it's too late. And then when you are, it's even more humbling. And you got to smile, and you got to get out there, and you got to give your love. and it's not easy every single day. You know, I don't think I ever thought I'd be a cannabis celebrity or a canna star or any of that. All I ever wanted to do was share the love with all the people I was meeting, and knowing that, you know, when I was donned the Great Grandfather Hybrid Cannabis by Sensi Magazine and Greenleaf and just people that did these studies, you know, they did the chromography and the work to figure it all out. When they came to me and told me, you know, I wept. I told them, I said, get out of here. I don't want to hear that. You know, I've been fighting for cannabis my whole life. I've just given up the last 11 years of my life at the State House. Are you out of your mind? How can you bring that to someone like me now? And then the calling came. And I took that very seriously. You know, being the great grandfather of anything is very humbling. And in the realms of cannabis, to be the guy that was blessed as a little boy and not even know it. I just wanted to grow weed, man. That's all I wanted to do. I didn't know that this was the first hybrid. How would you know? You're a little boy. I was a little kid, man. I just got lucky. I had some Colombian and some Hawaii. I grew them side by side, and the Colombians pollinated this one, and it had 330 seeds. I'll never forget it. I'm never forgetting the first harvest. I'll never forget it, dude. I'll never forget any of that. I remember killing the males that I had. See, I get very emotional for cannabis because it came to me very early, and I didn't know it. And it waited all those years to bless me, all these years to call upon me, to give it all up, to give it back to everyone I've met and everyone that's believed in me. And, you know, you asked about, you wanted to know, the truth is, I wouldn't be anything without people to help me along the way, you know, that allowed my light to shine and to help guide my path. And the opportunities that I've pushed away, and I'm sorry to people if I've offended anybody, hurt anybody, I apologize to you. Right here now, I apologize. I'm making my amends, and I've given back everything I possibly can so that I can leave an impression on humanity, so that my children can leave a legacy behind. And that's what cannabis has done for me. It's helped me, it helped wake me up, and it helped me send a message that's truly reverent to others. It's a very poignant story, mine. It's very unique. I don't tell it all to everybody. Some people know my whole legacy, and it kind of blows them away.
Well, I don't think people realize the expense that it takes to be an advocate, especially in this day and age, against something so big as our government, big pharma, big corporations, money.
You know, when somebody asks you, hey, man, what can I do? You know, what is it that I can do to help, you know, and like that. When I meet people like those people, those are the people that, you know, will believe in you. It takes people that truly step out of their comfort zone and make a voice like Thomas has and like Timothy does and we do. You have to do this yourself. It's a reckoning of your own doing, like the demise of your own doing. Cannabis is of its own doing. It can't see, it needs you. It needs you to use the voice of why you used it. What did you need it for? What calamity did it cause in your life? You know, just why? I believe I used it very early on due to an endocannabinoid deficiency, due to vaccines. I just think that I became, you know, even back in the day, they said I was attention deficit disorder. They said I was this. They said I was that, this, that, and the other. But really, I don't believe any of that. I believe the vaccines kind of did something, and that cannabis helped calm me, soothe me, and guide me along the way. And all these years, it's like my mom said, dude, you know, my mom's a doctor. She's really quite famous, my mom, and I love her to pieces. I don't like her bringing her into the show because I never wanted to hurt her through cannabis. But now she respects me because I use it at those levels that she bred me to be. And I will champion, as I said earlier, I will champion any being on the planet in a positive sense for cannabis. And most likely, if you don't agree, you're probably part of that racist movement that was indoctrinated within you that you still aren't privy to. You're not truly educating yourself. And that's where I lie. I lie with science and data, friends, family, community, all over the nation and the world now. It's really quite something. It's very powerful. And just to be a dignitary and show up, you know, and you know, hey, I don't always smoke cannabis because I'm misted.
Yeah.
You know, you think about it. I don't always smoke cannabis, man, but when I do, I get misted. You know, just like that guy. You know, So I like to mist. It does keep me going. It's really a very, I got to let you know, people out there that don't know, very soon and shortly, I'm hoping that we're going to be able to get this product just everywhere. It's revolutionary, just as my lights, just as CryoCure. This is revolutionary stuff. And again, I wouldn't put my Rick Naya Cannabis Approval of the Seal on there. It's just, I'm down with it. I can't wait. Thank you for asking. I'm sorry for getting emotional, but you know, the cannabis is everything to me. If you really knew the whole story, you'd know that this man, me, I think sometimes I am cannabis. I speak for it, and I hope that I do a good job for all of us. And I don't want to hurt anybody. I just want to share the love.
Well, you're doing a great job, Rick.
All I
We
know.
put people like you out there to help support and push these causes and make people aware. It's not an easy position to hold. You have everybody's looking at you. Everybody's hoping that you can do and accomplish things that, you know, we stay awake and in battle to do every night. I don't think people understand the fight that's going on, especially the fight that you've taken on, and then not only the fight, but what we've lost to maintain this fight, whether it's our finances, our families, many
friends,
man.
The friends that have died that I helped. There are many people. I want a lot. You know, people don't know, but you know, yeah, I used to operate under an illegal sense. I used to do illegal things. I don't do them anymore. I really don't. But I used to. But I've helped save people's lives with medicine, and very, 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 very potent forms of medicine, like Rick Simpson. I've done some things that have helped people's lives, and it makes me feel inside like, you know, Lord, you know, if there is a Lord, or if it dwells within me, or if there isn't, and I'm just an ash of the stardust, which I don't believe in. I believe that we're all connected, and there's a destiny of life that we walk, and whether your lights cross paths or not, one day inevitably, cannabis will come into your life, directly or indirectly. It already has, and it's quite something. It's very powerful to know that we're beings that are made with an essential key to our harmony, and it's cannabis. And they try to strip it away and destroy it through power and money. So please educate your children, educate your representatives, your elected representatives. Please get out there, hold them accountable, make sure that they know that you mean business and that you're not going to deal with anybody that's a systemic racist, because that's what you would be if you don't vote to legalize cannabis and allow it to become part of humanity as it always had been. America did this to the world. We need to stop this now. So that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing patients all across the country that don't have access to the medicine that this is. You know what I mean? I think
Like
there's a lot
the
of
medicine that Tim grows, for God's sakes. You know, Thomas has a very rare breed that he's genetically developed, you know, and these are the kinds of things that people won't be aware of if we can't get our craft growers that design these very rare earth heirloom land races that not even these medical companies have, that have tremendous healing potentials for specific diseases and specific ailments. I've always said this, you know, I learned this the hard way, of course, most of us had to. Let's start out with the least evasive damage possible, and that's cannabis. If it's that bad and you need some poisons to help kill something, then go to the next level. Or if you waited too long and it's that bad, start with poisons, but at least holistically help de-escalate it.
Yep.
And cannabis plays a key role in our entire organism. I call it the orchestrator of the body. You know, the endocannabinoid system orchestrates all enzymes, peptides, nutrients that go within our body. Hands down, if you didn't know that, you need to educate yourself.
You said it great earlier, Rick, when it was, you know, you have your glow, you're eating healthy. You know, we're talking about food. You know, we have Dr. Bob on quite a bit on the show, and I talked about Dr. Bob regularly, and he's the same thing. He's 70, almost 80 years old, bouncing off the walls with energy, excitement, and love for life. And you know, he sits there and repeats and repeats and repeats. It's about diet. You know, eat cannabis. It's about your diet. Get away from these processed foods. You know, these chemically enhanced foods. These, excuse me. You know, these processed foods that, you know, they're, and not only just with cannabis, but there's tons of other natural herbs and things out there that all have cannabinoids in them. So right now it's about education, right? So get out there, figure out what helps your bodies, support your supporters, guys. Support your influencers. Support the guys that you know are going to the State House and battling for you guys. Support the guys that you know that will drive all over the country with $5 in their pockets to go advocate for a patient, to go help a patient, to go bring him some meds.
You see my backdrop, that DNA stream there?
Yep.
Just so everybody that's watching right now knows, cannabis does not just bind, it bonds within this DNA. Just know that that's how critical it is to our actual gene, our genome, our body would not be without an endocannabinoid cannabis system.
Yeah,
we are also, you think, everybody seems to think, oh, we are a human being and plant matter is plant matter. Plant matter is a being as well. And we are plant matter as well. In fact, we are foods for plants and life. And if the Indians, I don't know if you heard this today, the 2 Indian women, I don't know if that's the word to use, but they're Native American. There we have the word, Native American Indians. They were elected to political positions of high positions. I was like, oh my God, transition will begin, because people like that are the kind of people I would listen to. You know, they had it right all along before the white man, so to speak, came to this country and destroyed it these last 250 years. Let's think about right now the transition that America is going to be going through here in the next 10 to 50 years is going to be essential that cannabis play a role. It's essential. It's an essential facet of our well-being and of our compassion and love for society and humanity.
Yeah. I mean, that's education. It starts with education. It starts with making your voice heard, guys. We all have a story. We need to hear it. You guys got to get out there and get in the voting booths and make your needs heard. The squeaky wheel always gets the grease. And if we sit back and complain on social media and we complain about all the things happening in our government and the way things are going, we're not going to the polls because we think that our one vote doesn't make a difference, then we're wrong. As we're seeing numbers are skyrocketing for support, we're seeing recreational cannabis, not just medical cannabis, but we're up over 70, almost in the 80 percentile of Americans that agree for recreational cannabis, right? We're seeing states go back and forth all the time. The Alabama thing, the Arizona stuff. We talked about Florida today and how crazy some of what's going on down there, especially with, you know, the 70-year-old grandma that got kicked out of Walt Disney World. Of all the happiest places in the world, they kick her out of Walt Disney World, right? In front of her family, kids, and it just ridiculousness that's happening. Tim brought up the fact that we have people facing federal charges on less than an ounce of weed in a legal state again. So guys, know your laws. Get out there and vote. This is the time. We talk about it every couple of years. Getting out there. Let's get all involved on the same platforms. Let's support people like Rick Naya's and the Young Jerks and the Adam Dunns of the world who are trying to educate. Reach out to the guys like us in the weeds and the Thomas Markholms and the Tim Fairs, and these guys are all producing content for these great shows. They're putting the time and energy and effort into it. Not a lot of people don't realize this, but we brought up earlier, Rick, we don't make any money doing this. Everybody thinks we're doing great. We're rolling around in money, and why can't we do this and do that? But being an advocate and standing up for patients' rights and standing up for businesses' rights and standing up for social equity rights and getting laws passed, it's a very expensive fight. And we do it with the skin of our teeth, and we're beg, borrow, and one day I'm buying you lunch, one day you're buying me lunch, kind of a thing, and we help each other out because we know we're the voices that need to be there. So guys, if you can support us, support our movement. A lot of things that we do are definitely illegal on a federal level. Every show that we produce, every time we promote, every time we support, but we don't give a fuck. That's what we're here for. Educate, guys. Again, reach out to us. We're always here. Rick Naya, the Rick Naya Show. Another great show on air, guys. You can find him on Facebook and all throughout the social media platforms. Go to YouTube, check out his past shows. Very excited for you, Rick, to step into this media world. You know, we joined forces years ago. I feel like we've been huge influences on each other both ways across the table. And I can't think of a better guy to be behind the mic, sharing the love and the education that we do than you as well. So everybody check out the Rick Naya Show. You can find it every Thursday night. And tomorrow you have one of my closest friends and dearest people in the cannabis industry, Dr. Uma, joining your show. So we want to give a big shout out to Dr. Uma. If you guys don't know who Dr. Uma is, you definitely need to get educated. She's one of the biggest voices, medical voices in the cannabis industry. That basically quoted the term, cannabis is not an entry drug, it's an exit drug. So I'm really excited to watch that show with you tomorrow, Rick. I believe you might be giving away some Bubba Kush gear too as well. So guys, if you want to get some Bubba Kush gear, tune into the Rick show tomorrow. And he'll be announcing it somehow. I don't know how you plan on doing it, Rick.
Well, I can announce some right now, but what I'll do, I do it during the show. And usually I do a pop-off. Like, hey, I can't wait till this afternoon. I'm popping off with Dr. Uma. And please listen in. We'll be giving away a free shirt cap and an iota mist valued at over free, because value of love in our branding right now is sharing the love. And I can't wait to be able to do that for Matt Berger, Bubba Kush Brands, Brandon Barbario, Joseph Smith, MT Jeff Wells, and the entire BK Brands team. I'm looking forward to being able to share that tomorrow with Dr. Uma, world-renowned Dr. Uma. The exit drug philosophy is not just a philosophy, it's a fact. And she brought this to science all over the nation and the world. I cannot wait to have her on. And I can't wait to share it because, again, like you, Joe, you meet Dr. Uma, and if you're doing the right things, you'll be a friend with her for life. And I love her so much. I can't wait to share the love tomorrow.
Yeah, me too, man. And I'm so excited for her.
Yeah,
you guys, that's it, I think, for the day, guys. We ran our 2 hours up. We had a great show. Rick, another great talk. Didn't expect it to go into the depths it did, but I'm so glad it did because, again, people need to be educated. They need to understand. They need to understand the consequences of their battles. You know what I mean? We have to understand that there's a fight to be had, and we all need to join forces and support each other. Otherwise, we're not going to get anywhere. And thank you for being the voice of reason out there, Rick, spreading that love, keeping it going, representing the right brands. You have a lot of heart, a lot of love, and you truly wholeheartedly believe in what you're doing. And every product that you support has shown the same quality that you exude. So, guys, stay tuned next week. We have a great guest from Canada coming on, Danica. She's been on before. From Cannabis up in Canada. We're going to talk about a lot of what's going on in Canada, the COVID, the border, so many different things going on, hemp industry, and what's looking like up in Canada now going into what it's almost third year now. We've had her on the show before. It was great, and I can't wait to have her back. So, guys, a lot of great shows coming your way the next couple of weeks. Stay tuned to the Rick Naya Show. Stay tuned to In the Weeds, and I think that's going to be it. You guys have anything to say before we go?
I want to go eat some dinner.
Well, thank you for everybody. Thank you for everybody who stayed late, who stayed with us, who waited for us to get on. We've had nothing but weird. Just everything is kind of working weird in the last couple of days here. We've had some crazy weather and all sorts of things. So thank you guys for staying tuned with us. Thank you guys for being patient with us. Sorry,
hey, everybody, don't forget to call the Vermont Grow Coach. If you need any help with growing, man, contact the Vermont Grow Coach. You want to grow organic, healthy cannabis, I'm giving them the thumbs up. There's where it's at. You're going to get Cannabis Cup Championship quality cannabis if you listen to his instructions. So get a hold of him if you need any help, man. And from me and from all of our fans in the cannabis community arena, from Mass-Can, Knee-Can, Con-Can, every can that's available out there to us, from the Harvest Cup, Pheno Cup, Terptown Throwdown, and everybody that's out there, thank you so much for joining us today on In the Weeds Radio Prohibition Talk Show. I can't wait to share the love tomorrow. We'll see you then.
I'll see you guys later. Thank you guys for tuning in.